I awakened an SSS rank talent. In a world forever changed, humanity clung to the remnants of its former glory like moss on ancient ruins. The sky, once unburdened, was now veiled with faint violet scars that shimmered even in daylight, remnants of the Rift War. From those scars, monsters spilled forth, bringing chaos, death, and something else. Dungeons. The year was 2158. Earth, or what remained of it, was no longer ours. In just 50 years, over 65% of human territory had fallen. Cities had crumbled under the weight of unspeakable horrors. The seas churned with leviathans. The skies whispered with winged beasts that once belonged in myth. Survivors gathered in fortified zones, massive cities encased in steel and magic, built atop what had once been bustling metropolises. The strongest of these safe havens was Bastion City. It was here, under the artificial dawn of shielded towers, that Cairo Vale waited. 17 years old, black hair that hung in uneven strands, evidence of self-cut maintenance. Slate-gray eyes that watched everything, yet revealed nothing. Skin brown by sun and soot from odd jobs. Cairo was lean, not out of choice, but necessity. Orphaned at 6. Raised in Sector 17's orphanage. Survivor of one of the earliest monster breaches in the inner city. The others called him quiet. The instructors called him stubborn. He called himself alive, and that was enough. Today, like every other 17-year-old, Cairo would undergo his awakening. The gymnasium buzzed with quiet excitement. Dozens of teens lined up before an obsidian crystal taller than a man. Instructors from the Department of Talent Evaluation stood watch, robes enchanted with scanning glyphs, their expressions unreadable. Cairo stood at the end of the line. "Hey, Vale," said a voice behind him. He turned. It was Darius, lean, tall, broad-shouldered, and already wearing an elite-tier uniform. Son of a district governor, naturally talented, already guaranteed a spot in the Sentinel Academy, regardless of what his awakening revealed. "You ready to score an F rank and go back to cleaning filters?" Cairo didn't respond. He simply looked away. TCH freak. Darius moved past him, confidence oozing like oil. When it was his turn, he stepped up to the crystal, placed his palm on the shimmering surface, and the crystal pulsed a bright blue. Talent grade, A rank. Element, lightning. Subtype, chain wielder, call the instructor. Applause followed. Darius grinned. Cairo exhaled slowly, not out of nerves, but restraint. His hands remained loose at his sides. His mind steady. Whatever came next, he would not fall apart. He'd done that once already, long ago, when blood coated his childhood, and monsters dragged away what little he called family. His name was called. He stepped forward. The crowd had quieted, more from curiosity than support. Cairo placed his hand on the obsidian crystal. It was cold. Then it wasn't. The air rippled. The walls shimmered. A pulse of light surged from the crystal, not once, but 3 times, each brighter than the last. The instructors froze. One dropped their scanning slate. The crystal turned gold. No one had seen gold, ever. Then came the voice, not spoken aloud but felt. Awakened, Cairo Vale. Classification, magician. Grade, SSS. Unique trait, arcanum vein. Text shimmered into being above the crystal, visible to all. A second panel followed. Name, Cairo Vale class. Magician, SSS rank. Level, 1 HP. 12120 MP. 55550. Stats, strength, 8 agility, 10 vitality, 11 intelligence, 25 wisdom, 23 endurance, 12 luck, 4. Talent trait, arcanum vein, passive, grants immense mana regeneration and enhanced spellcasting speed. Spells may evolve based on emotional resonance. Skill slots, locked, requires level 3 to unlock. Silence stretched. Then chaos. Impossible. Did it glitch? Get the high evaluators. Cairo stepped back, but the crystal remained glowing in gold, its light bathing the entire room. He looked down at his hand. It trembled slightly. Not fear. Anticipation. In the days that followed, Cairo's name spread like wildfire. Some called him the Golden Mage. Others whispered that he must have cheated. An SSS rank magician hadn't been recorded in over a century, not even in the Great War archives. And yet, while others celebrated or speculated, Cairo prepared. The orphanage gave him his own room for the first time in his life. The walls were plain, the bed barely wide enough for him to stretch, but it was quiet, private. It gave him room to think and to train. His first spell came 3 nights later. He had been meditating, trying to feel the mana, as the instructors had described it, like currents in the air. But for him, it wasn't just currents. It was a storm. A word came unbidden to his mind. A phrase. Arc bolt. The air crackled. A bolt of lightning lanced from his fingers and scorched a crack in the floor. From that moment, he understood. His power wasn't just about control. It was about intent, emotion, memory. Every spell would be shaped by what he felt. When he enrolled in Bastion's Military Magic University 2 weeks later, the entrance trial was simple. Defeat a dungeon-generated monster alone, under observation. Cairo's opponent was a Class C Flamehound. It died in 6 seconds. The evaluators didn't cheer. They stared. He was assigned to Section 9 of the university's freshman intake, a special division for irregulars and exceptions. And that's where he met them. Aaron Westlow, a spear-wielding brawler with a level 12 record and a chip on his shoulder. Tesha Moraine, a healer with a mysterious past and the rare ability to cast shield spells that didn't fade under pressure. And Instructor Drayle, a scarred veteran whose element was earth, whose teaching philosophy was, if you don't bleed, you don't learn. Drayle tested them daily. Training fields filled with summoned beasts. Physical combat drills. Mana control endurance. Cairo struggled at first, not with the magic, but with the control. One miscast spell melted a sparring arena wall. Another blew out the school's Eastern mana sensor. And when Aaron goaded him during a drill, Cairo lost his temper. The resulting arc bolt blasted Aaron 20 feet into a tree. From then on, Aaron called him Cannon Boy. But something else happened too. Tesha approached him after class. "I think you scare them," she said. Cairo looked at her, wary. "You don't." She smiled, soft and calm. "No, because I think you're trying not to be a monster in a world that makes them." And for the first time in years, Cairo felt seen. But the world outside the academy was changing. Dungeons were growing. A new one had appeared near the outer wall of Bastion, Class B, but expanding. And Cairo was about to face his first real mission, one with real stakes, and no reset button. The dungeon stood like a wound upon the land. Jagged obsidian spires jutted from the cracked earth, pulsing with dim red veins. Around it, the very air shimmered with distortion, as if the world struggled to contain the anomaly. This was no ordinary dungeon. Bastion City's border patrol had cordoned off a 3-kilometer radius around it, and teams from the Defense Corps had already lost contact with their first scouts. Still, the mission remained. Test the depth. Confirm the threat level. Survive. Cairo Vale adjusted his gloves, his fingers twitching slightly as magic flowed just beneath his skin. The fabric of his standard-issue uniform barely masked the tension coiled within his frame. He wasn't alone. "You sure you're ready for this, Golden Mage?" Aaron Westlow asked, cracking his knuckles. The taller boy twirled his ironwood spear, freshly enchanted. Cairo didn't bother responding. Instructor Drayle, clad in reinforced combat robes layered with dust and scars, stood before them. His gaze swept over the team. Cairo, Aaron, Tesha Moraine, and 2 upperclassmen acting as observers. "This isn't a training field," Drayle said. "This is reality. You enter, you adapt, or you die. Simple." The gate shimmered open, a swirling vortex of violet and obsidian. "Move." They stepped through. The dungeon welcomed them with silence. Dark stone halls stretched into the unknown, lit only by faintly glowing fungi that pulsed in irregular patterns. The temperature dropped. Mana shifted. Cairo felt the change immediately. The difference in flow, the way it clung to him like static. The group advanced slowly. Tesha took the rear, casting minor shield pulses every few minutes. Aaron led, reckless but alert. Cairo stayed center, scanning every shadow. Within minutes, the first threat emerged. A group of 6-legged hounds with translucent skin and no eyes burst from a side corridor. They moved in sync, their growls reverberating off the stone walls. Aaron moved to intercept. Cairo stepped forward. Arc bolt. The spell hit before the command finished. A flash of white-blue lightning surged outward, tearing through two creatures mid-leap. Tesha followed up with a barrier, halting the third beast. Aaron skewered another. The remaining hounds fell quickly. When the echo faded, Cairo's hand trembled, not from fear, but restraint. His mana pool had barely dipped. "We need to go deeper," he said. Drayle, watching from a distance, nodded silently. For hours they moved. Each chamber tested a different part of them. Strength, coordination, endurance. Cairo learned fast. Each enemy offered something new, an angle, a weakness, a resistance. He adapted his spells mid-cast. Arc Bolt split into twin strikes. Flame Lash, his newest ability, curved through corridors. By the time they reached the 5th level, the group had begun to rely on him. "Too much. Let me scout this one," Aaron said. Cairo stopped him. "No, I sense something." Ahead lay a chamber filled with bone pillars and a single, massive construct at its center. A golem, stone layered with runic plates. Its core shimmered violet. "Boss-class guardian," Tesha whispered. Aaron tensed. "We pull out. Regroup." But the golem moved. Faster than it should have. The fight began in chaos. Aaron's spear glanced off its arm. Tesha's barrier cracked. The upperclassmen were too slow. Cairo reacted on instinct. Flame Lash. Fire surged forward, but the golem absorbed it. It raised its hand, and a pulse of gravity crushed the team into the floor. Cairo gritted his teeth. Blood dripped from his mouth. His vision blurred. Then, something broke inside him. A new word. A new spell. Nova Vein. The mana in his body erupted. The ground split. The golem was thrown back. Light exploded from Cairo's core. When it faded, he stood alone in the crater, smoke rising from his shoulders. The golem twitched, then disintegrated. System alert. New spell learned. Nova Vein. Unique. Type. AoE burst. Effect. Expels overcharged mana in a volatile burst. Damage scales with missing HP cooldown. High. Mental toll. Moderate. The others stared. Tesha crawled forward. You burned through half your life force." Cairo swayed, then dropped. He woke in the academy infirmary. His status panel floated before him. Name, Cairo Vale. Class, Magician, SSS rank. Level, 4. HP, 67 of 160. MP, 390 of 600. Stats, Strength 9. Agility, 12. Vitality, 14. Intelligence, 31. Wisdom, 28. Endurance, 14. Luck 4. Skills. Arc Bolt, Level 2. Flame Lash, Level 1. Nova Vein, Level 1. Traits. Arcanum Vein, Passive. Battle Meditation, Unlocked. He sighed. Drayle entered the room. "You pushed too far." "I won. You lived." "That's not the same." Cairo met his gaze. "Then teach me to do both." Drayle stared at him for a long time. Then, finally nodded. "Tomorrow morning. 5 hours before sunrise. Bring your staff. You're not just strong anymore. You're dangerous. It's time you learned how to control it." Outside, the city trembled. Another dungeon appeared on the edge of the wildlands. And far away, a new monster stepped through a tear in the sky, sniffing the wind for the scent of magic. The world was only growing darker. But Cairo Vale had only just begun to shine. The wind was cruel before sunrise. Cold swept across the training fields behind Bastion's Military Magic University, scattering leaves and dust over the broken stone tiles. It was the kind of morning that bit into the bones and made students stay in their beds. But not Cairo. He stood alone in the center of the field, shirt damp from sweat, his breath steady despite the chill. A training staff rested across his back, and his uniform jacket was folded neatly nearby. His hair was a mess. His hands were wrapped in bandages, but his eyes held the steady focus of someone with something to prove. Instructor Drayle arrived precisely as the first light touched the city's outer wall. He didn't speak at first. He simply dropped a stone disc on the ground, inscribed with glowing glyphs. "Stand in the circle," Drayle said. Cairo stepped forward. The moment his foot touched the rune, pressure enveloped him. Weight, not physical but spiritual. Mana suppression. Tier 1 limiter field, Drayle explained. You'll cast at 60% efficiency. Good for beginners. Cairo didn't flinch. Turn it to Tier 2. Drail's eyes narrowed. You just recovered from burning your core. I need the pressure. The instructor said nothing, but the circle flared brighter. Tier 2. Cairo staggered. It was like breathing underwater with stones tied to his chest. Drail drew a short baton from his belt. Attack me. Cairo moved. Arcbolt snapped from his palm, wild and overcharged. Drail sidestepped it with ease and tapped Cairo's shoulder with the baton. You telegraph too much, he said. Again. Cairo inhaled, forced his mana into rhythm. Arcbolt again, this time cleaner, tighter. Drail blocked it with a rune shield and launched a rock spike trap that forced Cairo into a backward roll. They repeated the exchange for hours. By the time the sun had cleared the wall, Cairo was gasping, hands shaking. But his mind was clear, focused. Training wasn't just repetition. It was resistance. Later that day, the university corridors buzzed with rumors. More dungeons. Stronger monsters. A failed raid in Sector 12. Cairo walked in silence, flanked by Aaron and Tesha. Corinne hadn't returned from a mission with his advanced class yet, but a message from him had reached Cairo. Push hard. They're watching. Not everyone wants another SSS tier getting attention. Inside the classroom, Instructor Vena began their lecture. Today, we cover harmonic spell convergence. Your goal is to learn the basic form of the tri-cascade. 3 spells in sequence without losing rhythm or efficiency. Most students groaned. Even Aaron winced. Cairo raised his hand. What happens if you chain spells faster than your resonance flow? Vena looked up. You rupture. Or pass out. He nodded. Okay. Don't try it yet, Vale. Too late. During practice, Cairo attempted the chain. Arcbolt, Flame Lash, Barrier Pulse. The mana snapped inside his chest like a whip. He gritted his teeth and staggered. Tesha grabbed his arm before he fell. I said not to try it, Vena scolded. Cairo wiped blood from his lip. I needed to feel the limits. That evening, Cairo sat alone beneath the old bell tower at the edge of the academy. His status panel glowed softly. Name, Cairo Vale. Class, Magician, SSS rank. Level 5. HP, 145 out of 180. MP, 610/650. Stats, Strength 9. Agility, 13. Vitality, 15. Intelligence, 34. Wisdom, 30. Endurance, 16. Luck 4. New skill unlocked. Barrier Pulse, Level 1. Traits, Arcanum Vein, Passive. Battle Meditation, Passive. He scrolled past the stats and found something new. New passive detected. Harmonize Focus. Chaining spells within 3 seconds improves mana flow by 8%. A quiet voice interrupted him. You're pushing too hard, Tesha said, approaching. I'm behind, Cairo replied. You're ahead of most of the upperclassmen. I'm still behind where I need to be. She didn't argue, just sat beside him. They watched the stars blink into the sky, one by one. I used to think strength was about never falling, Cairo said. And now? He looked at his hands, faint sparks dancing across his fingertips. Now I think it's about choosing to stand back up, again and again, until the world stops pushing. Tesha smiled. You're not alone in this fight, Cairo. And for a while, they just sat in silence. Not afraid, not broken, just alive, ready for what came next. That night, in the deepest part of the forest beyond Bastion's walls, a massive horned beast stepped from a forming rift. Its eyes glowed with blood-red light. Its body pulsed with dungeon energy. It was hunting, and it had already caught Cairo's scent. The Academy's Easter training grounds were a forgotten place. Shaded by broken towers and old stone arches, the area had once been a dueling courtyard, back when the city's defenses were held by spell knights and rune weavers. Now, it served a more secret purpose. And this morning, it belonged to Cairo. The air was crisp with the scent of dew and dust. Mist clung low to the ground, curling around the worn tiles as if afraid of the power soon to be unleashed. Drail stood at the far edge, his arms crossed. Cairo approached with his staff slung over his shoulder. His body still ached from the dungeon. Bandages lined his torso, and a slow-burning bruise glowed beneath his left eye, but his eyes burned brighter than ever. You're late, Drail said without looking up. By 2 minutes. 2 minutes gets you killed. Cairo said nothing. He set his stance and waited. Drail finally turned. Your spells are powerful. Too powerful for your frame. You're leaking mana when you shouldn't, bleeding control when it's most critical. And your instincts. He clicked his tongue. Raw. Undisciplined. Impressive. But dangerous. Cairo gripped his staff tighter. Today we break that. He gestured to the center of the courtyard, where several runes had been etched into a training circle. You'll fight illusions. But not just any illusions. Echoes of real monsters. Dungeon-born. Ranked and calibrated to your current level. Cairo stepped into the circle. The runes lit, and the first enemy appeared. A shadow cat. Slender, quick, with glowing amber eyes and claws tipped in null steel. A beast known for disabling spells mid-cast. Cairo moved. The fight was brutal. The shadow cat dodged arc bolt easily, slipped under flame lash, and almost disarmed him with a flick of its tail. But Cairo adapted quickly, weaving in footwork, pushing through pain. He baited the cat left, cast flame lash right, but with a curve, and caught the beast mid-pounce. It burst into light. Drail didn't applaud. He raised 2 fingers. 2 monsters appeared. This time, ice wretches. Slow, but able to suppress mana around them. Cairo felt his body lock. Spells faltered. He knelt, breathed, channeled deeper. He tapped into battle meditation. Time slowed. He moved between the creatures, placed one flame lash perfectly between their legs, forcing them into each other's path, then exploded them both with a charged arc bolt. They burst into vapor. Drail raised 3 fingers. 3 monsters. Then 4. A skeletal knight. A lava crawler. A venom lizard. A bladed wraith. Cairo faltered. This was beyond what a level 4 should face. But he didn't retreat. Nova veins surged. Pain laced his chest. His vision blurred. But the pulse of raw magic blasted the arena. The knight lost its sword. The crawler shattered. The wraith screamed and vanished. Only the lizard remained. Cairo raised his staff, but his mana sputtered. The lizard lunged and stopped. Drail had caught it midair with a binding spell. He waved his hand. The illusions vanished. Cairo dropped to one knee, gasping. Good, Drail said. Too good. Which is why I need to tell you something. Cairo looked up. Your talent. SSS rank. It draws attention. Not just from allies, but enemies. Nobles. Guilds. Monsters. Even those from the other side. The more you grow, the more you'll be hunted. I'm ready. No, you're not. But you will be. The week that followed was brutal. Morning sparring. Afternoon spell work. Evening theory. Cairo trained alongside other students. Some avoided him. Others challenged him. One boy, named Rain, an archer with a piercing gaze and a sharp tongue, began to rival him in speed drills. They clashed often, not out of hatred, but fierce competition. Tesha returned to spar with him. Her barriers were stronger now. Together, they practiced team formations, combining arc bolt with reflective shields to amplify its range. In the library, Cairo met Professor Ellen, an old rune master who began guiding him through lost spell theory, including the concept of double casting and harmonic resonance. He learned new terms: overchanneling, spell compression, flow cycling. He pushed past exhaustion, meditated until mana wrapped him like a cloak, and watched his status grow. Status update. Name, Cairo Vale. Level, 6. HP, 190 of 190. MP, 710/710. Stats, Strength 10. Agility, 13. Vitality, 16. Intelligence, 37. Wisdom, 35. Endurance, 17. Luck 5. Skills, Arc Bolt, Level 3. Flame Lash, Level 2. Nova Vein, Level 1. Mana Weave New. Traits, Arcanum Vein, Passive. Battle Meditation. Adaptive Flow, Unlocked. But beneath it all, a whisper grew. A darkness on the horizon. New dungeon gates were opening farther from the cities. Villages were going quiet, and one report chilled him. Spire-class threat emerging near the Skirich Mountain. Unidentified mana signature. Estimated 3rd-tier devastation if breached. And in the report's footer, subject exhibits spell patterns similar to Cairo Vale. He lowered the paper slowly. What kind of monster echoes his magic? And why is it waiting? Night fell heavy over Bastion City. The stars, once vibrant, seemed dimmer, as if even the sky held its breath. Within the academy walls, lights flickered and shadows whispered. Rumors had begun to spread among the students, of villages lost, of strange figures watching from rooftops, of monsters moving with too much purpose. But in the eastern wing of the academy, Cairo Vale stood in silence. He faced a wall of mirrors. They weren't ordinary reflections. The training room here was built for one purpose: psychological resilience. It read your fears and projected them. The closer you got to your mental limits, the more vivid the illusions became. Cairo raised his staff. The mirrors shimmered. Then they came. One by one, faces from the dungeon. The shadow cat, the golem, the ice wretches. Each one reflecting not just a monster, but a failure, a near-death, a weakness, and finally, his own face. Bloody, hollow-eyed. You won't be enough. The voice came from the reflection. Cairo didn't blink. I don't have to be enough. I just have to keep going. He stepped forward. 100 illusions rushed him. He didn't flinch. Meanwhile, across the academy, Rain watched from a rooftop, his longbow disassembled on his lap. He watched as instructors paced below, whispering urgently. He'd seen the report too. That thing in the mountains. It had moved, and it had left behind a crater. Not a mark of destruction. A footprint. Rain closed his eyes. He wasn't sure if Cairo was the reason for what was coming, but he knew Cairo would be the first to meet it. The next morning, Cairo was summoned to the guild tower. The building stood apart from the rest of the city, spiraling with glass and reinforced manhwaedit steel. Inside, everything hummed with power. Here, contracts were made, missions assigned, territory defended. Instructor Drail walked beside him. You've been requested for a real mission. Cairo stiffened. Already, no more simulations. No more projections. You'll join a rapid response team for a breach near Hollowspire ruins. Cairo knew the place. Once a town. Now, a haunted graveyard. Drail stopped at a sealed door. This isn't about killing monsters. It's about saving people. The door opened. Inside, 3 others. Tesha, Rain, and a tall woman with silver hair and 2 differently colored eyes. This, Drail said, is your field captain, Leary Vallon, veteran of the Crater Siege, survivor of the Black Depths. Leary nodded once. Don't try to impress me. Just survive. The mission began at dawn. They flew out on mana skiffs, hoverboards powered by compressed ley energy. As they moved, Cairo read the mission brief. Unstable dungeon fragment detected. No known source. Villagers nearby reported loss of color, screaming earth, and flickering people. Rain muttered beside him. Sounds like a memory fracture. Tesha shivered. Or worse. They arrived by noon. Hollowspire had become a crater, and in the center of it, a pulsing shard of violet crystal embedded in the ground. Cairo stepped off the skiff. His knees buckled. The world tilted. His magic roared. Status notification. Temporal distortion detected. Echo instability rising. He saw flickers of himself. Past versions. Fighting, falling, burning. Then a future self. Cold. Empty. Laughing. He grabbed his head. No, that's not me. Leary appeared beside him. Control it. Or it controls you. Cairo forced his breathing to slow. Focused on the present. On the rhythm of Tesha's shield spells. The steady pull of mana beneath his feet. Rain's grounding silence. He stood and walked to the crystal. We're not here to destroy it, Leary said. We extract a fragment. Take it to analysis. Rain fired a resonance arrow into the crystal. A spark of blue light followed. Tesha summoned a barrier over the group. Cairo focused. He reached out. The moment he touched the crystal, it shattered, and the world screamed. The world screamed, and then went silent. Cairo hit the ground hard. His body convulsed once, twice, then stillness. He opened his eyes to darkness. But not the absence of light, the absence of everything. No mana, no air, no sound, just a void. Then came the voices. You shouldn't be here. You touched the wound. Now the wound sees you. They weren't spoken. They rang inside his chest, like a discordant choir in a broken cathedral. Cairo tried to move. He couldn't. A figure emerged from the void. Not human, not monster. Shifting with every breath. A creature made of echoes. It looked at him with infinite eyes and spoke his name. Cairo Vale, the one who sings against silence. Then, a flash. He woke, gasping. Rain stood over him, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. Tesha knelt nearby, her hands glowing as she stabilized a crackling distortion ward. Leary barked orders behind them, her voice cutting through the chaos. Form a perimeter. Reinforce the fracture seal. Do not touch the main shard again. Cairo sat up, dizzy. His status screen flashed. Status panel name: Cairo Vale Class. Arcane Magician. Awakened. Level: 13 HP. 78/150 MP. 420/510. Traits: Echo Sensitive. Temporal Flicker. Dormant. Magi Instinct. New Condition: Harmonic Sync. Unstable Effect. Spell resonance fluctuates with emotional state. Mana efficiency increased by 30%, but risks critical overload. Rain tossed him a canteen. You glitched out for 5 minutes. Eyes went silver. Thought we lost you. Cairo coughed. I touched the shard. It showed me something. A version of me I don't want to become. Leary stalked over. This mission is over. We're pulling out. Tesha, prep evac coordinates. Rain, get a stabilizer charge on the perimeter. Vale, you're on recovery. They flew back in near silence. But Cairo couldn't stop shaking. Back at Bastion Academy, Cairo was placed under mandatory observation. He spent 2 days in a reinforced mana chamber designed to regulate wild magic. The walls pulsed with suppressing runes. Instructors came and went. Probe scanned him. On the 3rd night, he was visited by an unexpected guest. Master June. The man was ancient by Academy standards. White-bearded, red-eyed, carrying a cane that doubled as a spell conduit. Most thought him retired. June walked in without greeting, dropped a scroll in Cairo's lap, and sat. You touched something old, and it touched back. Cairo swallowed. What was it? June shrugged. A pre-resonance fracture. Before talents. Before leveling. Raw narrative force. A wound in the world. And now it's interested in you. Cairo stared. So what do I do? Train harder. Break yourself until you understand which pieces matter. He tapped the scroll. Inside is a training regimen older than this city. No mana. No spells. Just control. Body, breath, memory. You master it. Maybe you won't explode the next time your magic sings. Then he left. Cairo began the training. It was brutal. He spent 6 hours a day in silence. No casting. No stimulation. Only movement. Postures. Breath work. Meditation under shifting gravity spells. Every mistake earned a jolt of mana feedback. Every success granted clarity and pain. Tesha visited him on the 5th day. You miss sparring. He opened his eyes. I was sparring with myself. She smiled faintly. Better company, I guess. He cracked a smile. She grew serious. Cairo, the academy's changing. The council's worried. They think you might be unstable. He stood. They're right. But I'm getting stronger. Not just power, purpose. Rain appeared in the doorway. Good. Because we just got reassigned. Cairo blinked. To where? Deep Zone. Tier 4 Rift. Undocumented dungeon type. No maps. No support. Tesha added. And they want you to lead the scout team. Cairo's heart pounded. He looked at his hands. Then at the horizon. Then let's see what kind of echo I really leave behind. The rift pulsed like a heartbeat beneath the earth. Cairo stood at the edge of the chasm, wind swirling up from the abyss below. The Tier 4 dungeon yawned wide, a spiral fracture in the world itself, silent, ancient, and steeped in shadows. His team stood behind him, Tesha adjusting her spell lens, Rain twirling a dagger between his fingers, Leary double-checking escape, runes etched into their boots. No maps, no support, no known type, only whispers. As they descended, light bent strangely. Rain's shadow elongated ahead of him, shifting like it had somewhere to go. The air tasted like copper and old string. Welcome to the Refractor Depths, Tesha murmured. Refractor dungeons are anomalies, zones where the laws of physics and magic become distorted. Most are sealed. This one had opened overnight. In ancient times, scholars believed these zones were echo wells, places where reality itself had been stretched too thin. Theories suggested they were scars from the earliest magical wars. when the gods themselves tried to unmake the world with their final songs. What made this one unique? It wasn't just distorting the environment. It was reflecting memories Cairo had prepared. In the week leading up to deployment, he had undergone final sessions with Master June. One session in particular stood out. The old man had blindfolded him, then filled the training hall with projection shards, each one broadcasting a memory from Cairo's past. His parents' laughter, the night the orphanage burned, his first monster kill, the first time he failed to protect someone. June's voice echoed, "Now cast." And aim true. Cairo had flailed at first, casting too wide, too wild. But eventually, he learned to anchor himself, to choose his emotions rather than be swallowed by them. By the seventh session, he could stand still, eyes closed, and whisper a spell through the memories. June's final words, "Remember, power without memory is just noise." They reached the first chamber, a circular vault filled with crystal structures that mirrored their own movements. Tesha scanned the walls. No heat, no mana, but something's alive in here. Rain pointed. There. Movement. The creature emerged. Refractor beast, class unknown appearance. Shifting crystal plates for skin. Multiple eyes blinking in sync. Movement. Fluid and unpredictable. Cairo's status panel pulsed. New entity analyzed. Refractor beast. Born from memory fractures. Mimics emotional states. Immune to illusion and projection spells. Weakness. Overloaded emotional resonance. Cairo raised a hand. It's reflecting us. It doesn't have a form. It borrows one. Rain darted forward, blades flashing, but the beast shifted, becoming an exact mirror of his movement. Blades met in midair. Rain cursed. "It's fighting me with me." Cairo called to Tesha. "We need to overload it. Flood it with something it can't mirror." Tesha unleashed a burst of controlled harmonic fire, but it deflected. Cairo stepped forward. He sang. Not a spell, a note, a memory. His voice cracked, but it carried real emotion. "The day I chose to live, even when I had nothing." The refractor beast hesitated. Its body pulsed. Cairo channeled his unstable condition, harmonic sync. A spell burst from his chest like thunder. Spell unlocked. Echo pulse, awakened effect. Create a field of vibrating resonance that destabilizes reality-bound entities. Damage scales with personal emotional clarity. The beast cracked, then collapsed, shedding crystal fragments that dissolved into air. Tesha stared at him. That was personal. It had to be, Cairo said, breathless. New trait unlocked. Refractor bound, you gain temporary resistance to reality distortion effects. Emotional clarity increases spell stability within refractor zones. They camped in a safe hollow deep in the rift. Tesha casting perimeter wards while Rain brewed mana stabilizers. Corinne's presence flickered faintly from the communicator, a reminder of what they'd left behind. Cairo sat apart, staring into a shard he'd taken from a beast. In its reflection, he saw a version of himself with golden eyes. A crown of light. A staff too heavy to lift. Tesha approached. That the future? Cairo shook his head. A possibility. One I'm not sure I like. She sat beside him. Then train harder. Become someone better. He smiled. Yeah, someone who leaves a better echo. The deeper they went, the less the refractor depths resembled a dungeon, and more a dream unraveling from the inside. Cairo led the way now, guided not by instinct but by the rhythm of the shifting resonance. Every step hummed with a note he could feel beneath his skin. The song of the rift was growing louder. Behind him, Tesha readjusted her spell lens. Rain walked light on his feet, always watching the walls, as if they might open their eyes. Leary was quiet, her gaze flickering every few seconds to the crystal fragment in Cairo's pouch. This place is singing, she finally said, but it doesn't want to be heard. 2 days before entering the rift, Master June had taken Cairo to the edge of the outer wards. There, in the still of morning, he'd handed him an empty spellbook. You won't always have scrolls. You won't always have mentors. One day, your only magic will be memory. Cairo opened the book. The pages shimmered blank. June pointed at the horizon. Write a spell now. Something new. Cairo had hesitated, then whispered a phrase. Let my steps remember the weight of those who carried me. The spell etched itself in silver. Spell created. Legacy step. Effect. Each step taken in enemy territory gathers defensive charge. Bonus when walking a path you've walked before. The next chamber opened into a vast, cathedral-like space. But the pillars were crooked. The pews were shadows. And the altar was a pit. Voices drifted up. Not screams. Not chants. Harmony. Cairo raised a hand, signaling silence. They crept closer and saw them. Dozens of humanoid figures. Hollow. Pale. Faces blurred. Standing in concentric circles, humming a melody that resonated with the bones. Choir wretches, Tesha whispered. Failed echo weavers. People who tried to bind their souls to the song and lost themselves. Rain unsheathed his blades. They haven't noticed us yet. Cairo stepped forward. The humming stopped. The nearest wretch turned and sang. Not a word. A note. Sharp. Piercing. Tesha reeled back, blood running from her ears. Cairo gritted his teeth. Status alert. Disruptive melody. Active willpower check required. Failing may result in memory erosion. Cairo reached inside. Not for a spell. For a memory. His first moment of laughter. His first promise. His first spell. Then he sang back. His note wasn't perfect. It cracked. It wavered. But it was his. And it was heard. The choir wretches paused. Then one step forward. Smaller. Shoulders hunched. A child. Cairo. Leary gasped. That voice. It was at the orphanage. The child sang again, and a wave of clarity burst through the vault. The wretches shuddered. Then some wept. Trait gained. Resonant recall. You can restore fragmented souls through personal melody. Can only be used once per target. Requires emotional memory. Spell fragment recovered. Verse of the Hollowed. Use. Dispels one mind-affecting effect from an ally. Damage dealt to spirit entities increased by 20%. They found shelter in an ancient storage chamber, long collapsed but stable. Tesha set the wards. Rain sat sharpening his blades with more force than usual. That kid knew your name, he said. Cairo nodded. I think he was one of us. From the orphanage. From before it burned. Leary sat beside him. They were trapped here. For years. You think we could bring them back? Cairo looked at the shard again. It pulsed now. Not dangerously. Like a heartbeat. Maybe we already have. In ages past, legendary echo weavers could bind spells to emotions so strong they became items. Weapons born of grief. Armor from vows. One such item pulsed in the chamber. A heart made of bone and star silver. Tesha approached it. Item. Requiem heartbound emotion. Regret effect. Allows the user to cast 2 spells simultaneously, but has emotional clarity per cast. She lifted it, and it wept. Final encounter. Vault Guardian. At the far end of the vault, a gate stood sealed with 4 locks. As the team approached, the lights dimmed. A figure emerged from the wall. Not humanoid. Not beast. A tangle of voices. A song unspoken. A guardian, made of the choir's grief. Vault Guardian. Dirge Mass. Tesha fired. Leary cast a prism field. Rain dove in. Nothing worked. Cairo stepped forward. He took a breath. And he sang. Not for power. Not for peace. But to remember. And to release. The guardian screamed. Then it wept. And faded. Vault unlocked. New title gained. Choir bearer. All emotional magic now retains 10% effect when silenced. Allies within 5 meters gain minor resistance to memory erosion. They walk forward. Toward the heart of the refractor depths. Toward the source of the world's broken music. And Cairo's final words before they vanished into the dark. Let them hear us, even if we never come back. They descended further into the refractor depths, their steps measured, their breaths tight. The air itself began to feel like old parchment, fragile, soaked with history, ready to crumble at a touch. Above them, faint flickers of unstable magic darted like fireflies, illuminating half-buried murals of ancient battles long lost to time. Cairo led the party, torchlight bouncing off uneven walls of warped crystal and obsidian. Strange echoes followed them, like footsteps from another timeline. Sometimes the dungeon seemed to inhale, and they all felt it. A subtle tug at the chest, a pressure just behind the eyes. In places, the stone underfoot shimmered slightly with every step, as though uncertain whether it was solid or memory. This isn't just a dungeon. Tesha murmured. This was built with memory magic. We're walking through someone's past. Maybe even their regrets. Rain crouched to examine a twisted rune etched into the wall. It pulsed faintly, the rhythm erratic. This one's cracked. Like it's trying to hold something in or out. Might be a ward. Or a seal. Hard to say. Leary held her hand against the wall, eyes closed. Her lips trembled. There's pain in here. Old, aching pain. We're not just trespassing, we're disturbing. They entered a massive antechamber where the walls bowed inward, held together by webbing strands of resonance threads. The ceiling arched so high it vanished in a shadow. In the center, a grand statue, a faceless weaver, arms outstretched, mouth open in eternal song. The melody that escaped was faint but present, like a lullaby across a battlefield. Master June would have said, "This is sacred ground," Cairo said. But sacred doesn't mean safe. In the days before entering the depths, Cairo had been training beneath the Academy's resonance chamber. A dense magical field surrounded him, forcing his mana into chaos every time he tried to channel. June stood at the edge of the platform. Sing with your core, not your throat. If your heart doesn't know the spell, your mouth never will. Cairo closed his eyes, focused on the pain he'd buried, the fire that destroyed the orphanage, the voices he never got to say goodbye to. His magic responded, not with force, but resonance. Spell learned. Core to burden. Effect. Channel a spell through an emotional wound. Stronger based on unresolved grief. Costs double mana, but ignores silencing effects. They weren't alone. Figures moved along the far wall. Humanoids with mouths stitched shut, holding resonance harpoons made of bone and crystal. One raised a hand. A pulse swept the chamber. Status alert. Partial memory lock engaged. Effect. Temporarily unable to recall personal spells. Magic casting speed reduced by 30%. Cairo staggered. Tesha cursed. Rain barely caught himself mid-step. The attackers advanced, but slowly, cautiously. One of them whispered despite the stitches. Names. Give us names. Leary trembled. They're song thieves. They survive by absorbing identities. They don't kill. They erase. Rain charged first. Blade shimmered, but the thieves bent like reeds, dodging with unnatural grace. Tesha countered with a mirrored shield spell, but one thief touched the glass and hummed, and it cracked instantly. Cairo stepped forward. He didn't cast. He spoke. My name is Cairo Vale. I remember the wind after the orphanage burned. I remember the taste of ash and the promise I made. And you won't take me. He stomped the ground. The spell surged upward. Spell cast. Core to burden. The air split. The thieves recoiled, shrieking. One of them dissolved, not killed but released. A wisp of voice drifted upward. Mother. Beyond the antechamber, they discovered a broken sanctum, once a storage space for mnemonic crystals. Shards littered the floor, and voices whispered from every crack. Tesha stepped forward and retrieved one of the fragments. Item gained. Broken mnemonic core. Type. Artifact. Effect. Once per day, relive a lost memory. May grant temporary spell restoration or a burst of clarity. Cairo held a crystal and watched as it lit with the vision of a boy, himself, sitting by candlelight, drawing magic glyphs in a stolen notebook. Alone. Determined. Forgotten by the world. I remember this, he whispered. I thought no one ever saw me, but I saw myself. New passive gained. Self-sung memory. Gained 10% resistance to identity-based effects. Emotional spells cast within 5 minutes of memory recall. Gain plus 15% strength. That night, they built a silent fire. No kindling, no flames. Just ambient heat conjured from Rain's crystal battery. The team sat quietly, their thoughts heavy. The song thieves. Tesha said. They were trying to hold on to something. Maybe names they were forced to forget. Maybe a family. Maybe themselves. What happens when we forget our own names? Leary asked. Cairo stared at the embers. Then we find someone who remembers us, even if it's just one note at a time. They hummed a low melody together. Not a spell, just a song. Their voices layered slowly. First Cairo, then Tesha, then Rain, then Leary. And the depths listened. There was once a caster who sang a spell so full of love it healed an entire battalion. But when her beloved died, she sang again, and the spell erased everyone's memory of him, even her own. The hollow aria became a forbidden technique. Magic born not of hope, but grief so deep it turns backwards. Songs like that don't echo. They absorb. The choirmaster of the Silence Chorus was said to have mastered it. As they prepared to break camp, Cairo checked his status. Cairo Vale, status panel, class, magician, awakened, SSS rank, level, 18, HP, 323, 20 MP, 760/820, strength, 22, dexterity, 34, intelligence, 62, willpower, 57, charisma, 28, luck, 13, traits, resonant recall, choir bearer, self-sung memory, fate echo, dormant, spells, chord of burden active, legacy step, verse of the hollowed, melody anchor, in development. He tightened his grip on his stave. They were nearing the heart of the depths. And someone, was waiting. The light from Rain's crystal dimmed as they crossed into the final section of the refractor depths. The tunnel narrowed, ceiling drooping like the jaws of some ancient creature, the walls twitching with residual echoes. No one spoke. Even their breathing had quieted. Cairo led in silence, his mind still turning over what had happened in the antechamber. Song thieves, memory locks, voices calling for names. But it was the hollow aria that echoed in his bones now. They emerged into a chamber unlike any before. The floor was cracked mosaic, long since faded, bearing a single symbol, an ear drawn within a flame. Leary touched it gently. "It's the seal of the choir's sanctum," she whispered. "This is where they taught echo magic in the old age, before the Silence Wars." The walls were lined with musical instruments turned into relics, a harp fused into crystal, flutes petrified into stalactites, and at the center, a massive organ made of bone, vine, and rune-etched stone. The moment they stepped closer, it breathed. A chord, soft and sick. "It's alive," Tesha muttered. No sooner had the word left her lips than the air tightened. A figure rose behind the organ, its body translucent, its face blurred. It wore robes that flickered between states, its mouth stitched and unstitched with every pulse of song. The echo of a forgotten conductor. A red glow pulsed from its chest. A hollow core. Boss encounter. Forgotten conductor. Type. Echo Wraith. Abilities. Silent Coda. Cancels all named spells for 30 seconds. Reverberant Doom. Unleashes a song that disorients and scrambles memories. Conductor's Baton. Channels the battlefield into a controlled rhythm, locking allies into timed movements. Status alert. Magic interference level rising. Casting delay, 40%. Scatter. Rain called, vanishing into shadow. The conductor struck the floor with its baton. A shock wave rolled across the room. Threads of red and black, music tying Cairo's legs in rhythm. He could only move when the song allowed it. Tesha tried to counter with a ripple spell, but the silent coda wrapped around her throat. She choked, then screamed. No sound came. "He's dictating our tempo," Leary said, panicked. "We have to disrupt the score." Cairo focused. The pain, the weight, the orphanage. His heart beat out a measure that wasn't the conductor's. He slammed his stave against the floor. Spellcast. Chord of burden. Effect. Overrides enemy rhythm with emotional resonance. A wave of grief-fueled sound burst outward, cracking the binding notes. Tesha gasped and unleashed a sigil spike. Rain struck from the shadows, blades dipped in anti-magic venom. Leary sang a counterchord, her voice raw. The conductor staggered, arms twitching. Cairo stepped closer. His voice broke. "You can silence our mouths. You can twist our spells. But you can't erase the part of us that remembers the pain. Because that part still sings." Spell unlocked. Resonant Defiance. Type. Area buff effect. Allies resist suppression and mind-altering magic for 60 seconds. Strength scales with emotional bond. The music shattered. The conductor screamed, not in sound, but in distortion. It collapsed into a swirl of ash and fractured light. A single crystal remained where it fell. Item gained. Hollow core. Type. Unique resonance relic effect. Once per week, convert one traumatic memory into a high-power spell. Warning: repeated use may cause instability. Rain picked it up. We'll need this. Whatever's deeper in here, it's worse. They rested briefly, patching wounds and recharging mana. Cairo sat alone at the base of the organ. He pulled out a scroll, blank, and wrote, "If I forget who I am, remind me. If I sing in silence, find a note. If I die in sound, let my song remain." He folded the paper and tucked it into his armor. Then, he checked his status. Cairo Vale, status panel. Class, Magician, SSS rank. Level, 19 HP. 343-40 MP. 890/920 strength. 24 dexterity. 36 intelligence. 65 willpower. 62 charisma. 30 luck. 14 traits. Resonant recall. Choir bearer. Self-sung memory. Fate, echo, awakened. Passive glimpses of future song threads. Hollow core, equipped, spells. Chord burden. Legacy step. Verse of the hollowed. Resonant defiance, new. Melody anchor, in development. The corridor beyond the organ opened on its own, and down it, the music changed. Quieter, slower, but far more dangerous. They stood at the edge of the resonance chasm, staring down into the abyss where no echo returned. Not even their own breathing bounced back. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was hollow, unnatural, the kind of void that drank sound like blood. Tesha knelt and lowered a mana-threaded stone into the drop. It vanished without a sound. No splash. No impact. Not even a shimmer. "This place is wrong," she said. "It doesn't just kill sound. It unweaves it." Leary shivered. "That explains why the map ends here. No records past this point. No one's ever made it back from Echo Fall." Cairo stepped forward, staff pulsing faintly. He could feel the melody seed in his chest, not just beating but sinking to some invisible rhythm far beneath them. "We're not like the others," he said. "We're not just walking forward. We're carrying what they left behind." Rain grunted. "Let's make sure we get the chance to leave something, too." Weeks earlier, in the upper halls of Varen Academy, Cairo had trained alone in a collapsed echo chamber. It was a space abandoned after a failed ritual detonated 3 years prior, leaving only fragments of arcane glyphs burned into stone. Juna found him there. "You're too quiet, Vale," the old master said, sitting on a broken bench. "Magic doesn't respond to silence unless it's forced. And forced magic breaks." Cairo, sweating and bruised, answered without looking up. "What if I don't know how to speak the right way yet?" June tilted his head. "Then speak the wrong way, until it becomes true. That's what real resonance is. Not mimicry. Memory. New trait unlocked. Fault speaker. When casting a spell in an unstable or broken zone, gain plus 20% efficiency and chance to rewrite the spell in real time. Compatible with all resonance class spells. They built a platform of suspended mana threads, each anchored by Leary's customized echo rings, allowing them to descend in silence without touching the walls of the chasm. Below, the walls grew smoother, darker, less carved and more grown. "I think this place is alive," Rain muttered. No one disagreed. Halfway down, they found the first remnant, a floating shard of a bridge. On it, a skeleton in bard's robes, still clutching a lute with half its strings. The bones had been twisted mid-movement, as if the body had tried to twist away from something its mind had forgotten. Item obtained. Silent lute, broken. Effect, can be repaired at a chorus forge. May contain lingering memories. Tesha knelt beside it. They died trying to remember a song. Cairo felt a pang in his chest. Memory flash recovered a woman's voice. "If I forget the chorus, remind me with the wind." Near the base of the chasm, the air changed. No longer dead, it pulsed. Not with breath, but intention. Figures emerged from the far cavern wall. Dozens, maybe more, cloaked in veils of dust and threadbare robes. They held no weapons. Rain readied his blades. "Who are they?" Leary whispered. "They used to be singers. Now they're just echoes. They call them the choirless. Victims of the first failed melody. They didn't attack. They sang. But it wasn't music. It was the sound of mourning, a name no one remembered. Status alert. Emotional dissonance, minus 20%, spell clarity. Thought drift risk, high." Tesha swayed. "I can feel them pulling. Not my power. My memories. Cairo clenched his jaw. Anchor to me. He began a new spell. Not one he practiced, but one he remembered from dreams. Spell cast. Echo chain. Binding chorus effect. Link allies' emotional cores into a harmonized loop. Reduces memory bleed. Amplifies cooperative spells. The moment the spell completed, the party stabilized. The choirless paused. One step forward. Her face, half-shadowed, turned toward Cairo. You carry the root, the melody seed. You may pass, but only if you remember what you lost. Cairo nodded. The final chamber opened like the inside of a bell. A single pedestal rose from the center, and atop it, a crystal sphere of living song. A note rang out the moment they stepped forward. Not sound, a memory. Cairo's first spell. Lyra's brother's final song. Kale's silence after his father died. Corinne's erased laughter. Each of them heard a piece of their soul spoken aloud. Event triggered. Echo Fall revelation. You may choose one memory to sacrifice for permanent magical evolution. Cairo stepped forward. I choose the day I stopped hoping. He placed his hand on the sphere. It absorbed the memory, and in return, gave him something deeper. Spell gained. Verse of becoming. Type. Evolutionary anthem. Effect. At low HP or during emotional despair, this spell will rewrite one previous casting with double power, inspired by current need. Usable once per day. The sphere shattered. The chamber rumbled, and a new door opened. Beyond it, the next dungeon, or the next world, or the final verse of someone else's unfinished song. But they weren't afraid, because now their voices were one. The walls were singing again, not the way a songbird sings, or how a melody hums through stone when a caster channels resonance. These songs were wrong. Not quite screams, not quite whispers, but layered, endless variations of voices trying to recall who they used to be. A child's laugh warped into a weeping lullaby. A soldier's chant crumbling into prayers. A name repeated 100 ways, none of them quite right. Cairo stood still, listening. He wasn't alone. Behind him, Tesha adjusted the straps on her ether harness, sweat trailing down her brow. Rain held his short blades reversed, knuckles pale. Leary stared into the flickering gloom ahead, her eyes still shimmering from the last memory pulse. And Corinne, quiet and withdrawn since the hollow aria remnants, walked with shoulders too stiff and hands too loose, as though fighting the weight of every name he nearly forgot. The echo maze lay before them. I've read of this place, Leary said softly. A structure built by resonance architects, used to house fractured identities. Those who died here weren't buried. They became part of the stone. Rain muttered, wonderful. A haunted labyrinth of forgotten people. I can't wait. Tesha frowned. Sarcasm doesn't help. We're here for the next shard, the harmonic keystone. Without it, the melody anchor spell won't stabilize. And Cairo won't survive casting it. Cairo finished. The entrance wasn't a door. It was a note. One held for so long, the stone vibrated around it. Cairo stepped forward and sang. Remember me, if only once, a whisper woven past the dusk. Though I may fade from voice and breath, let echo ward away my death. The note rippled outward. The stone parted. System alert. You are entering the echo maze. All party members affected by memory drift. Party connection temporarily unstable. The moment they stepped inside, light changed. Color dulled. Air thickened. Even Cairo's status window flickered in and out. Within moments, they were separated. He stood in a hallway of shifting reflections. Every wall a mirror of moments he'd lived and others he'd only imagined. One showed him kneeling before a fallen Tesha, her eyes empty. Another showed the orphanage still burning. Except this time, he was the one lighting the match. He tried to close his eyes. He couldn't. In front of him, the maze opened into a circular chamber. Standing in its center was himself, but older, stronger, colder. You think pain makes you righteous, the other Cairo said. You think carrying memory means you deserve to write history. Cairo ready to spell, fingers trembling. Spell cast. Verse of the hollowed. No effect. The doppelganger smiled. Your grief is borrowed. Your fire is secondhand. You didn't save anyone. Cairo charged. The fight wasn't about winning. It was about enduring. Every strike was a question. Every block was a forgotten moment. He didn't use flashy magic. He bled. He burned mana. And when the mirror Cairo finally vanished in a breath of silver ash, he didn't feel stronger. He felt empty. Then the maze moved. She found herself in a garden. The same garden where she first held a spell book. The same garden where her father told her to hide, before the walls fell and the monsters came. Her mother stood there, smiling. Hands clean, dress unburned. Come home, Tess. You've done enough. Tesh's hand shook. She hadn't seen that face in years. You're not her, she whispered. I could be, the illusion offered. You just have to stop remembering the end. The temptation stung. But Tesha raised her shield, the one forged from her first conjured spell. I remember everything, and that's what makes me strong. She walked forward, and the garden fell away. Blades drawn, he stalked through corridors where no sound echoed. No footsteps, no breath. Then he heard laughter. Corinne's laughter. He spun. A door appeared. Behind it, the past. The day he and Corinne first joined a mercenary crew. Young, cocky, free. Stay, said the memory Corinne. You died. Rain snapped. You left me. I was taken. You let them. Rain trembled. He lowered his daggers. I'll protect him this time, he said, and the memory melted into light. She walked a staircase of names. Each step bore a glyph. Each glyph a soul. And one by one, she saw every patient she'd ever failed to save. Every friend she'd failed to protect. She kept walking, not to escape, but to honor them. At the top was a harp of light, suspended in a cage of bone. She sang. It sang back. Item acquired. Harmonic keystone, a piece of the original melody that created resonance magic. Can only be held by one who has walked through grief and not turned away. The maze released them. Not together, but near enough. Tesha found Cairo collapsed in the echo chamber, clutching a strand of silver. Rain sat with his back to the wall, a new scar across his face. Leary held the keystone with both hands, humming, and Corinne knelt before a wall where his name was carved, not by hand, but by memory. They remembered me, he whispered. Cairo stood slowly. No, you remembered yourself. System alert. Echo maze complete, new traits unlocked. Cairo. Enduring flame. Magic is 30% more effective when cast below 50% HP. Tesha. Unbroken reflection. Immune to illusion spells. Rain. Oathblade. Can sense when allies are in danger within 30 meters. Leary. Heart song resonance. Spells cast to protect others gain plus 20% strength. As they left the maze, Cairo looked back. The walls no longer sang. They listened. And somewhere, far above them, the next dungeon's echo began. The descent into the heart of the refractor depths grew steeper and more treacherous. Crystalline walls gleamed with muted colors, and the floor trembled underfoot like a heartbeat pulsing from the center of the world. The deeper the party moved, the more Cairo felt it. Not just pressure or dread, but memory itself tightening around his chest, like the past was trying to reclaim him. Rain scouted ahead with careful steps, his twin daggers drawn and humming softly. This place is rearranging itself, he muttered. The path we took before? Gone. The turns are different. Tesha ran a hand along the jagged corridor. Her fingers glowed faintly. It's a maze. But not just physical, temporal. It's changing based on who we are, what we remember. This place is sentient. Leary whispered. I keep hearing my brother's voice. But I never had a brother. Cairo's eyes narrowed. It's trying to rewrite us. Not just confuse us. Replace pieces. One forgotten name at a time. Before they entered the depths, Master June had pulled Cairo aside during a dusk training session. The old mage stood barefoot in a circle of runes, surrounded by whirling song threads. If the dungeon attacks your mind, you defend it not with walls, but roots. Cairo frowned. Roots. June struck his staff against the stone, and the song threads wrapped around Cairo's limbs. What you've lived through, your pain, your joy, anchor to it, dig into it. If you forget who you are, let your own past drag you back. The training left scars, mental and magical, but also clarity. New technique learned. Mnemonic pulse effect. Releases a wave of stabilized mana drawn from a single defining memory. Restores focus, heals mental fatigue, and reveals hidden paths in memory-altering zones. Usable once per day. They moved through spiraling tunnels where sound bent and colors reversed. Leary left mana marks on the walls, but some would disappear minutes later. Tesha cast barrier charms that flickered out like candlelight in wind. "We're being unraveled," she said. "Not with blades. With doubt." They came across a ghostly figure, an echo of a long-dead mage, walking in circles, chanting a spell in reverse. Rain reached out, but the figure looked up with hollow eyes. "You have no right to remember," it said. Cairo answered, "Then I'll earn the right." With every step, he triggered mnemonic pulse. A burst of silver light lit the passage. The ghost evaporated, and in its place, a stairwell revealed itself. Status alert. Memory stability boosted. Temporary. Effect. -15% maze distortion for 30 minutes. They found themselves in a circular room filled with floating song threads. Each thread vibrated at different frequencies. Symbols hovered in the air, rearranging every few seconds. "A puzzle," Rain said, "but one that shifts depending on who's looking at it." Cairo touched a thread. His hands trembled. He saw the orphanage, the fire, the silence afterward. He let go. "We need to harmonize it, together." Each member touched a thread and sang a single note. Not a song, a memory. Tesha, her mother's laugh. Rain, the sound of his sister training. Leary, a bird's call from her childhood home. Cairo, a lullaby he thought he'd forgotten. The threads aligned. The chamber opened. Puzzle solved. Echo threads aligned reward. +1 permanent willpower to each party member. Unlocks path to the lower choir vault. Long ago, a group of casters known as the Lost Choir wandered the depths seeking a forgotten harmony. They believed the true magic of the world was not power, but memory shared through song. Each member gave up their name to preserve a single stanza. No one knows what the song was, only that those who heard it remembered who they were. Inside the vault, crystalline sarcophagi lined the chamber. Voices whispered from within. One began to crack. A being stepped out, tall, elegant, and frayed at the edges of reality. His voice echoed before his mouth moved. "I am Selrith, guardian of the first stanza. I remember, too much." His power lashed out. Disjointed song magic, unstable and overflowing. Boss encounter. Selrith, memory-scarred guardian abilities. Resonant fracture. Target loses use of one random skill for 2 turns. Temporal loop. Repeats last action in distorted form. Fragmented howl. Weakens willpower of entire party unless resisted. The fight was chaos. Rain vanished in a shadow, but was yanked back by a reversed echo. Tesha managed to anchor her shield, but cracks formed instantly. Leary's chance failed, until she screamed, raw and real, and a burst of magic erupted. Cairo stood at the center. He activated Core to Burden. "Selrith," he called. "You don't have to keep remembering alone." He sang, from the heart. Not a spell, a promise. The music wrapped around the boss, and the power quieted. Selrith fell to his knees. "I remember now. Thank you." Boss defeated. Selrith. Item acquired. Harmonic sigil of the first stanza type. Relic effect. Once per battle. Cancel a memory-altering effect. Can be embedded into one spell to protect it permanently. Party level up. Cairo Vale. Level 19 Rain. Level 17 Tesha. Level 18 Leary. Level 17. New spell option available. Memory Echo Bind. Description. Temporarily link an enemy to a past memory, weakening them based on unresolved trauma. They sat again, quieter than before. "That guardian," Rain said. He was waiting for someone to sing with him. Cairo nodded. "I think everything down here is waiting. Not to fight, to be remembered." Leary added, "Then we remember. Every step forward, we carry what they lost." Tesha stared into the dark. "But what if we forget ourselves?" Cairo sang. Soft. A new song. Still unfinished. But it had weight. The passage beyond the lower choir vault narrowed into a corridor of black stone veined with songlight. Threads of ancient melody frozen in the walls like echoes made flesh. The air was thick, dense with something more than magic. Memory. Intent. Rain led in silence. His usual half-joking commentary was absent. Since the battle with Selrith, something in him had shifted. He was quieter now, not with fear, but reverence. Cairo noticed. So did Tesha and Leary. They said nothing, because they all felt it. A presence. A pressure that built with every step, not pushing them back, but pulling them forward. This place wasn't carved, Tesha murmured. Her shield hummed with resonance. It was sung into existence. I can feel the harmonics in the walls. Still living. Still waiting. Leary ran her fingers along the curved wall, her brow furrowing. These aren't fractures. They're braids. These song lines weren't broken. They were woven. Someone didn't just make this place. They preserved it. Cairo stepped ahead. He didn't speak. He sang. A single note. Wordless. Pure. The tunnel responded with a hum that passed through bone, memory, and soul. The walls parted. The soul core chamber revealed itself. At the center, on a suspended dais wrapped in silver strands, floated a crystal heart, the soul core. It pulsed with power drawn not from mana, but from the memories of those long dead. It shimmered between planes, past, present, future. Above, ancient murals danced in light. Images of nameless mages, warriors, and singers. Below the dais, darkness. And in that darkness, a shape, a shadow, not cast by light, but by truth. The warden of the soul core. But before they could approach, the chamber transformed. Light fractured, the air folded in, and each of them fell, alone, into a trial of memory and soul. Rain landed in an empty courtyard under a gray sky. Alone, a ghost stood before him. His brother, smiling. Whole. Before the war. Before the screams. You never sang with me. You just watched. Hid. Rain tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. He'd abandoned this memory long ago. You let me die, his brother said. A blade formed in Rain's hand. A violin string wrapped in regret. Then let me carry your song now. He fought shadows of himself. Lost again. Again. Until on the seventh fall, he stood and sang. The shadows bowed. Rain rejoined the world, breath ragged, but eyes clear. Tesha stood before a broken shield. Her family crest split down the center. Her father appeared. You were supposed to lead, not run. She gritted her teeth. I didn't run. I survived. You abandoned the charge. The world shifted. She stood on a battlefield of ash. Voices screamed. Her soldiers. Her fault. She raised her shield. One step, then another. She faced the guilt and remembered her oath. To protect, even when no one believes I can. The shield reformed in her hands. She woke, tears in her eyes, heart steady. A hallway of mirrors. Each one reflected a version of her. Angry, vengeful, cruel. You don't want justice, the mirrors whispered. You want blood. She denied it. Again, again. But in one mirror, she saw herself not holding a blade, but a song scroll. Her brother's. Intact. She approached. The mirror whispered. Sing it. Not for revenge. For memory. Leary sang. The mirrors cracked. She returned, voice raw but true. Cairo stood in a field of white. Alone. The stars above pulsed without rhythm. A figure appeared. Himself. Older. Stronger. But alone. You chased power. Found it. And lost everything. Cairo stared. That's not me. Not yet. But it could be. The sky wept. Not rain, but sound. He knelt. Breathed. Sang. No words. Just truth. The trial shattered. They awoke, together, at the edge of the soul core. The shadow below rose. Boss encounter. The soul warden. No form. Only presence. Its voice was stillness. In their minds, it said, you carry your truths. Now face mine. Abilities. Mirror verse. Reflects the last spell cast against it. Resonance tier. Banishes one member into forgotten space. Final refrain. Reveals the one truth each cannot bear. The fight was brutal. Rain vanished. Tesha broke. Leary wept. Cairo faltered. Then, Cairo stood and remembered June's lesson. Don't speak. Don't think. Be. Soul chant. Activated. A spell from the soul. No words. Just self. The soul warden trembled. Not from pain, but memory. And bowed. Boss defeated. Soul warden. Reward. Soul core access granted. Cairo stepped forward. This is what we are, he whispered. Not strength. Not status. Memory. Meaning. He touched the soul core. The world sang. Status update. Cairo Vale. Class. Echo Bound Magician. Evolved. Level. 20 HP. 343-40 MP. 920/1000. New trait. Soulcore Bond. Plus 20% effectiveness on memory-based spells. Immune to memory erasure within refractor zones. New spell. Final verse. Remembrance. Anchors all allies to a shared memory. Negates fear, suppression, and mind control for 5 minutes. Damage scales with emotional connection. That night, Cairo didn't write in a book. He etched the words in the dirt beside the fire. For every voice that went unheard, for every name without a word, I sing not just to light the way, but to make sure they all can stay. Around him, Rain, silent but stronger. Tesha, steady. Leary, free. Their trials weren't over, but neither was their song. The passage beyond the Soulcore chamber did not lead to rest. Instead, it led deeper, through a fracture in reality itself. The walls no longer shimmered with preserved resonance, but with unsettled memory, like light trying to remember its shape. The group emerged into a vault unlike any they had seen before. An atrium of stone and dream, its ceiling impossible to measure. Dozens of bridges, staircases, and broken song plates hung suspended in air, like a great orchestra hall shattered and frozen mid-performance. But it was not empty. A chorus hummed, a song they couldn't fully hear, only feel. It wasn't threatening. It was curious. Tesha was the first to speak. "We're in the Soul Vale." Leary frowned. That was supposed to be a myth. The trial chamber for those chosen by the core. A final crucible. Rain stepped cautiously across one of the floating stone paths. "Looks like we're not done proving ourselves." At the center of the space, a stairwell of light formed beneath them, rising like breath drawn from the earth. Then came the voice. "You have touched the soul core, but you have not yet become of it." A new presence descended. Not hostile, not fully corporeal. A guide. Here you will face what is buried. Not just memory, but the choices you deny. Only when the self is whole can the soul core trust you with its true gifts. Each member of the party was marked with a strand of light that pulled them into different sections of the soul veil. Each trial a path walked alone. He found himself standing in a ruined courtyard where a concert had once been performed. Instruments lay broken. The audience, silent specters. At the center was a boy, Rain's brother, before the fire. "You said you'd protect me," the boy said, his voice layered in echo. Rain tried to speak, but guilt thickened his throat. The boy played a stringless violin, each silent motion tearing the air around him. "You didn't even cry." Rain fell to his knees. Then, slowly he stood. "I didn't deserve to," he whispered, "but I will now." He sang, imperfect, shaking, a lullaby their mother used to hum. The audience of specters turned and applauded. The boy's smile vanished. She stood on a battlefield frozen in time. Her old squad surrounded her, every one of them dead. "You let us hear." She didn't deny it. Her knees buckled. "Because I believed we could win. Because I needed to believe something could be saved." The dead rose, not to fight, but to surround her. Each placed a spectral hand on her shoulders. One said, "Then lead again. But this time, don't carry us alone." Tesha's shield appeared, reforged in light. A courtroom. Her brother stood accused. She was the judge. He looked at her and said nothing. Then her own voice echoed from behind. "You want to avenge me, not absolve me." She turned. It was herself, fractured by fury. Leary lowered her weapon. "I wanted them to hurt, but he wouldn't want that." She embraced her reflection. It shattered, and a scroll appeared, his final composition. She sang it, and the chamber dissolved into peace. He stood on a stage before no one. No lights, no applause, just a scroll. 7 verses. Only 6 were written. In his hand, a pen made of memory. He heard 1,000 voices whispering. "Write it. Finish the end. Let it echo forever." But as he moved to complete it, the ink fought him. It bled. A figure appeared in the crowd. Himself. Older. Silent. Smiling, but sad. "If you finish it now, you'll be alone in the end. You'll win, but no one will remember why." Cairo froze, then sang, not the 7th verse, but a new line. "If I must choose between silence and self, let my song become someone else's hope." The scroll split and formed a second version, unfinished still, but ready to grow. One by one, the party returned, stronger, not because they had conquered their trials, but because they had understood them. The guide returned. You are not yet whole, but you are no longer hollow. That is enough. A final step appeared in the center of the soul veil, and above it, floating, a new form of the soul core. No longer crystal, but a sphere of woven light and sound. A living chorus. Cairo stepped forward. The others joined him, and as one, they sang. New status updates. Rain, shadow stringer level, 21 new trait. Resonant memory blade. His weapons now scale with emotional recall. Tesha, shield can't herald level, 22 new trait. Burden shared. Allies within range share a portion of mental and fear-based effects. Leary, harmonic scribe level, 21 new trait. Scroll of mercy, can inscribe songs in an ally's memory to ward off rage effects. Cairo veil, soulbound magician level, 22 new spell. Resonance divide, split one spell into two effects. Offense and memory-based support. That night, they camped beside the mirrored river near the Soul Veil's exit. No one spoke for a while. Then Cairo whispered, "Next time we sing, it won't just be for ourselves." Tesha nodded. "It'll be for everyone who doesn't have a voice yet." The fire crackled. Their trials were behind them, but war was coming, and they were ready to answer it with song. The soul core's light dimmed, not in fading, but in settling, like a breath exhaled after centuries of held tension. The chamber felt quieter, but not silent. Peaceful, yet alert. Cairo stepped back from the dais. His fingertips still shimmered faintly from where they touched the soul core, the connection echoing through his bones. Rain knelt beside the dais, sweat still beading on his forehead. That was heavier than any battlefield I've ever walked. Tesha inspected her newly solidified shield, now etched with a faint memory glow. We walked through more than just trials. We were witnessed, measured. Leary glanced toward the mural-lined walls, which now shimmered with new colors, tones and hues that hadn't existed before. And we weren't the only ones. The core sings with echoes. There are others. Before us. After us. Maybe even beyond us. Cairo turned. His voice was quiet, but certain. We're not done. That was only one chamber. One layer. The deeper echoes, they're still calling. A secondary staircase opened behind the soul core's altar, woven from threads of sound light that descended into a passage even older than the soul core chamber. Here, the walls no longer sang. They whispered. Faint names, long-forgotten moments, and fractured lullabies echoed with every step. They passed relics embedded in crystal, old gauntlets with scorched fingertips, broken mage masks, a shattered flute marked with runes. Each artifact pulsed softly, feeding the ambient resonance. Rain paused beside the flute. "You think all these belong to people like us?" Leary answered without turning. "There were people who didn't make it back. Their memory lingers, but not their names. That's the price of failing a soul veil trial." Cairo clenched his jaw. "Then we don't fail." Before them stood a wall of silver script, threads of narrative, half-spelled and incomplete. To pass, each party member had to finish a sentence that echoed from their own past. But if the words were false, the wall would erase the speaker's voice for a day. Rain stepped forward. A phrase glowed for him. "I left the battlefield because..." He stared, then said, "Because I couldn't save him, and I was afraid I couldn't save anyone else." The script flared. Voice kept. Tesha's phrase, "I carry the shield because... Because if I don't, who will?" Voice kept. Leary, "My brother's scrolls were burned because... Because I let anger speak louder than his memory." Voice kept. Cairo, "I chose this path because..." He hesitated, then said, "Because if I didn't do something, I would have become nothing." The script pulsed and opened. The next room was vast and circular, filled with floating crystal fragments suspended in midair, each pulsing with dissonant melodies. These were shards of corrupted song beasts, creatures born from resonance twisted by despair. To pass, the party had to restore harmony to at least one shard. Leary stepped forward, singing a morning dirge she'd once sung over her brother's grave. Her notes threaded through one shard, tuning its discordant pulse until it calmed. Kale's voice, quiet, steady, joined in. Together, they realigned the melody. One shard stabilized. The others backed away, as if soothed. Path cleared. A massive set of doors, sealed by two harmonies. One light, one shadow. To open it, they had to cast a dual spell. Cairo extended his hand to Leary. We harmonize. She nodded. Sing truth, not power. Together, they sang. One voice burns, one voice breaks, but two may bend the night. One for loss, one for grace. Together make it right. The gate opened with a resonant boom. Status update. Cairo Veil level, 21 HP. 360/360 MP. 980/1000. New spell. Twin aria. Grace and Grit. A duet spell that fuses opposing emotional elements into a stabilized buff. Increases party defense and resistance to mind effects. Grows more powerful with personal trust between casters. They stepped through into a space unlike any other. The air didn't hum. It listened. The next trial would not test their strength, but their legacy. The soul core still shimmered in the center of the chamber, its light softer now, no longer pulsing with ancient pressure, but radiating calm. Yet beyond its glow, another passage had revealed itself, a staircase of harmonic stone descending deep into the unknown. Rain ran his hand along the wall. We passed the test, and now we follow the path. Cairo nodded, his voice quiet. The Soul Warden wasn't the end, just a guardian of the first gate. There's more beneath. Tesha adjusted her grip on her shield. Then let's not waste it. We've earned our truths. Now we fight with them. They descended. The staircase echoed with steps that didn't feel like their own. Whispers followed them, fragments of songs, half-formed harmonies, voices that spoke in memory rather than sound. Leary paused halfway down. They're not illusions. They're stories. People who came before. Cairo closed his eyes. He could feel the pull. Something calling to his soul core bond. Not danger, but recognition. The stairway ended at a vast cavern lit by songlight veins in the walls. Here, the earth was not stone but a strange crystallized soil, shifting and resonating with every breath. And at the far side of the cavern stood a temple. Not large, not grand, but old. Etched into its surface was a single word, Velharman. Rain breathed the name like a prayer. The Temple of Echoes. The original school of resonance before the Awakening Wars. It shouldn't exist. Cairo stepped forward. The air thickened, like walking through water made of sound. System notification: new region discovered. Temple of Velharman. Memory magic efficiency plus 30%. Passive. Echo drift. Random memories may surface while casting spells. As they entered, a bell toll rang through the space, deep and resonant. The door shut behind them. Trial sequence initiated. Echoes of the unseen objective. Unlock the lost art of harmonic forging. The group found themselves split again, not physically, but mentally. Each was pulled into a chamber of the temple that resonated with a specific part of their emotional spectrum. Cairo stood before 5 copies of himself. Each one represented a version of him he could have become. The overlord, who sacrificed others to gain power. The martyr, who died to save a stranger. The liar, who ran from the truth. The coward, who never awakened. The empty one, who had power but no connection. Each step forward. Choose which one must fall for the rest to sing. Cairo looked at the empty one. You what the chorus wants. He raised his hand. A new spell formed. Not spoken, not summoned. Felt. New spell learned. Harmonic severance. Remove emotional corruption from a target. Can be cast once per day. He struck the empty one. The figure burst into harmless memory. The others bowed. He returned to the temple's center. Here, Rain stood before the faces of those he had failed to protect. His squad. His brother again. A girl with a broken flute. Each asked him the same question. Why did you survive? He didn't try to justify. He listened. He mourned. And finally, he said, to carry your names. His blade changed. A shimmer of light and song interwoven into steel. Weapon upgrade. Morning string blade. Stores final memories of fallen allies. Can be invoked for 1 powerful attack per memory. Rain returned. A battlefield replayed. But this time she failed again. And again. Each failure twisted her armor. Her shield grew heavier with guilt. Until she let it go. My oath was never to be perfect. It was to try again. Every time. Her shield glowed. The sigil mended. New trait. Indomitable guard. Immune to first instance of mental suppression in combat. Plus 10% ally defense in radius. Tesha stepped back into the light. There was no sound. No memory. Just a room of blank stone. And a scroll. Her brother's. But the words were missing. Only by singing from her heart. No spell. No chant. Just the feeling of who she was. Did the ink return? His story came back. Artifact recovered. Song scroll of Adrian. Can be used once to fully restore a fallen ally. Also unlocks one forgotten spell. They reassembled at the heart of the temple. The temple floor rose, forming a ringed platform of floating melody stones. In the center, a pedestal. Upon it, a single glowing shard. Item obtained. Harmonic core fragment. Required for forging next-level resonance weaponry. Needed to unlock the true power of Soulcore Bond. A deep voice echoed. You are no longer just wielders of magic. You are its stewards. The unseen has heard you. Now go. The temple doors opened. Above, daylight, and the sound of distant war horns. The chorus had returned. But this time, so had they. And with them, echoes reborn, truths remembered, and the silence broken. They emerged from the temple of Velharmon with a harmonic core fragment secured. Each of them changed in some silent but irrevocable way. The sky overhead had shifted, not in color, but in resonance. Even the wind carried a new frequency. Cairo walked in silence, his hand often drifting to the satchel, holding the core fragment. The echo of his trial still lingered. 5 versions of himself, each demanding acknowledgement. He had chosen the one without connection, the one who represented the core's philosophy. He had chosen not to forget who he was. Rain's blade was different now, carrying the weight of memories that could sing back when called. Tesha moved more calmly, her oath no longer a burden, but a rhythm she marched to. And Leary, her voice had changed. It was deeper somehow, more grounded, like the song she'd sung in silence had fused to her soul. They arrived at High Wall 2 days later. System notification. High Wall safe zone active. Memory drift resistance plus 20%. Emotional magic regeneration increased. High Wall had fortified itself while they were gone. Barricades of resonance-fused stone blocked key thoroughfares. Patrols wore sound-dampening cloaks. And the bells, High Wall's signature defense network, were silent. Not dormant, but listening. General Rinshout met them at the northern gate. His voice was grim. You're late. Rain raised an eyebrow. We brought back something better than time. They followed the general to the inner sanctum, a chamber beneath the city where vibration was stilled entirely. Here, even thoughts felt quieter. Rinshout motioned toward a wide table etched with glowing sigils. Our resonance grid is failing. Something is disrupting flow across the ley line network. We lost 4 guild outposts in the last 12 hours. Not destroyed. Forgotten. Their names don't register anymore. Leary stiffened. The Oblivion song is accelerating. Cairo placed the core fragment on the table. Its pulse was immediate. System update. New research node available. Soul core harmonization. Harmonize existing soul core bond with harmonic core fragment. Unlock tier 2 resonance abilities. They took the night to rest. But rest was uneasy. Dreams came in fragments. Cairo saw cities crumbling without a sound. Tesha relived every battle she had ever lost. Rain heard his brother's voice again, not in sorrow, but in warning. And Leary dreamed of Adrian, not dying, but singing alone in a dark room, waiting for someone to remember him. Day 1 of training, High Wall's resonance chamber. Master Instructor Solène greeted them at dawn. She was older than anyone expected, with silver-threaded hair and hands covered in inked runes. You went to Velharmon. That makes you candidates. But resonance is not loyalty. You must earn your next chords. Training objective. Soul Core expansion protocol. Cairo trained in harmonized spell loops, layering multiple spells within a single chant, timed with his pulse. It was like learning to breathe through a storm. New ability. Polyphonic casting. Allows 2 spells to be layered within 10 seconds. Second spell has 70% power. Rain's training focused on memory-attuned blade forms. Each strike called a name. Each parry a promise. Upgrade. Morning String Blade 2. Activating Memory Surge now grants brief, magical resistance and directional sound burst. Tesha trained with Formation Defense Specialists. Her indomitable guard trait became a rally point. Cadets flocked to her shield like birds in a storm. Trait advanced. Bastion Rhythm. Allies within radius gain resistance to suppression and mental interference. Lyri's lessons were quieter. Solène worked with her one-on-one, teaching her to transpose lost magic into modern spell structures. Spell unlocked. Adrian's Lament. Restores up to 2 lost memories to an ally. Risk. Caster loses minor memory temporarily. The sky fractured. 3 silhouettes hovered above Highwall's gate. Not soldiers. Conductors. They sang not with voices, but with intent. Reality bent. A bell shattered in midair. General Rinshout sounded the call. We are under harmonic siege. All operatives to active postures. Cairo stood atop the ramparts and looked toward the fractured skyline. He could see their auras, gray, unmusic bleeding into the sky. Rain drew his blade. Tesha raised her shield. Lyri began to hum. Cairo lifted his hand. The core fragment pulsed to life. This city has a song, and it remembers. They answered the chorus not with fear, but with harmony. Morning broke with the thunder of drums, not of war, but of discipline. Highwall's training yards were alive. Dozens of young awakened moved through tightly sequenced drills, each synchronizing elemental bursts, mana flow, or weapon strikes with the beat of an instructor's staff. Every spell was timed. Every movement had rhythm. Even failure had cadence here. Cairo stood in the eastern yard, breath clouding the morning air. His status floated before him. Name, Cairo Vale. Class, Magician Awakened. Level, 12. HP, 130/130. MP, 340/360. Talent, SSS rank, Arcane Resonance. Soulcore Bond, Linked. Primary element, Ether. Secondary element, None. Stats, Strength 9. Dexterity, 14. Endurance, 12. Intelligence, 24. Magic Affinity, 28. Perception, 16. Willpower, 21. Abilities, Arcane Bolt, Basic. Phase Step, Intermediate Mobility. Polyphonic Casting, New. Harmonic Severance, Daily Limit, 1. Traits, Soulcore Link. Harmonic Drift Resistance. Echo Bond Sensitivity. But Cairo wasn't focused on stats. Not today. Today was about control. Again, barked Instructor Solène. Layer the flame into the second chord, not the first. If you loop chaos before clarity, it collapses. Cairo gritted his teeth. Ether flared around him, then splintered apart. Boom. The ground cracked beneath his feet. He fell to one knee, gasping. Steam hissed from his gloves. Solène shook her head. Power without rhythm is just thunder. You're not here to make noise. Lyri knelt beside him, offering a water flask. Breathe. You're overcasting again. I'm trying to hit the sink window, Cairo muttered. If I can hold 2 layers stable. You will. Just not today. Rain and Tesha, training nearby, cast quick glances. Cairo wasn't the only one struggling. Everyone was pushing limits. The instructors wanted them broken down, because what was coming wouldn't be fair. Rain leafed through a sheaf of recovered maps with one of Highwall's old tacticians. The man's hands trembled as he spoke. These dungeons outside the outer verge, they weren't here before. The chorus is using rewritten nodes to generate artificial resonance zones. Rain scowled. You mean, corrupting the land to spawn their own dungeons? Exactly. And everyone they leave behind twists further. Like echo scars. Quest added. Dungeon Trail. Collapse the Twisted. Clear 3 known corruption nests within the eastern frontier. Rewards. Highwall Trust. Refined mana stones. Crafting rights. Cairo sat alone beneath the crystalline lanterns of the meditation chamber. The harmonic core fragment floated before him, gently humming. Why do you burn like this? He whispered. Why do you feel like me? He placed a hand near it. No spell. No trigger. Just will. System alert. Soul resonance progress. 48%. Warning. Incomplete attunement may cause echo interference. Proceed? Cairo pulled back. He wasn't ready. Instead, he reached for a stack of old scrolls beside him, found in the temple. Ancient resonance melodies, forgotten magician chants, deep structure spell theory. He'd study, grind, grow the hard way. Their group was called before Highwall's frontline commander, Captain Vera. You were being assigned to a suppression team. Test grade mission. Low risk. But if you botch it, there won't be a second. Objective: recover supplies from a broken outpost near Duskroot Hollow. Secondary objective: investigate a collapsed harmonic well. They departed before dawn. The wilds outside High Wall were dense. Not with trees, but sound. Every rustling leaf, every snapped twig, vibrated with mana, just slightly out of tune. By midday, they found the outpost. It was bent. The wood of its structures had curled unnaturally. Stone was twisted into spirals. Even the light didn't fall straight here. Cairo stepped forward. This is harmonic distortion. It's worse than the reports. Tesha raised her shield. Movement. A bestial growl echoed, low and shuddering. From the remains of the outpost, it crawled. A four-legged creature stitched from memory fragments. Broken illusions hung from its back like cloaks. Its eyes were hollow cords. Refractor beast, variant class. Threat level, B+. Immunity, basic elemental. Weakness, echo-aligned magic. Rain moved instantly. Tesha, block left. Cairo, prep double cast. Leary, start a memory loop. The fight was brutal. Tesha held the beast's charge, shield cracking with each hit. Rain danced around its flanks, blade striking with surgical bursts. Leary sang, her melody warping the air, confusing the beast's senses. Cairo stacked arcane bolt and severance. First bolt disrupted its form. Second spell tore through its aura. The refractor beast exploded into fractured echoes. But not without cost. Tesha collapsed, blood trailing from her shoulder. Rain's coat was torn open, ribs bruised. And Cairo's mana was nearly dry. But they won. Quest complete. Broken outpost secured. Rewards: 3x refined mana crystals, 1x chorus sigil fragment, party XP plus 500. Celine debriefed them quietly. You're growing. Too slowly, perhaps, but properly. She handed Cairo a small notebook. Inside, complex spell diagrams, sequences tied to emotional cadence. Your power scares people, Cairo, but power earned speaks louder than any birthright. Rain chuckled. See? Even she likes you now. Tesha smirked from the infirmary bed. Just don't get cocky. Leary added. And next time, bring backup scrolls. We're not walking into another refractor storm blind. Cairo sat alone again. Status update. Level 13. Soulcore progress 52%. Known weakness: low elemental control range. Poor mana recovery rate without rest. He stared at the stars. I won't become strong in a single leap. And I'm fine with that. I'll earn it. One fight, one failure, one song at a time. Highwall stood barely. Where once the city's bells sang warnings and victories, now only faint tones lingered, like the aftermath of a storm refusing to pass. Shattered resonance shields glowed weakly over the watchtowers. Cracks spiderwebbed the central gate. Wind carried soot and static. But Highwall endured. Cairo sat on a rooftop, overlooking the ruined western quadrant. His body ached with mana fatigue, and the edges of his vision still shimmered from polyphonic overuse. The harmonic core fragment pulsed gently against his chest, warm and steady. You shouldn't be up here, came a voice behind him. Tesha. She stood in battered armor, her shield now carved with etched runes that hadn't been there the day before. She looked like she'd grown older in one night. Cairo smiled tiredly. Couldn't sleep. Thought I should remind myself this place is still standing. She sat beside him. Together, they stared at the jagged skyline of Highwall. Rain and Leary are with the archivists. They're cataloging everything the chorus tried to overwrite. It's bad, Cairo. Whole record's gone. Families erased from memory logs. Some people don't remember what street they lived on yesterday. He closed his eyes. The cost of survival. Down below, emergency banners flapped. Survivors gathered in training fields, trying to retrain skills they'd forgotten mid-fight. The youngest cadets sang quietly under the watch of Master Solen, who hadn't rested since the battle began. "We need more than walls and shields," Tesha whispered. "We need roots, memory anchors, a way to keep our people grounded when the next pulse hits." Cairo sat forward. The melody seed. He opened his satchel and pulled the small, glowing fragment from its case. It pulsed in time with his heartbeat. The last time he'd activated it, a tree of stardust had bloomed. A moment of clarity against the tide. "Then we give them one," he said. "We plant it, right in the heart of Highwall." System notification. Unique event unlocked. Melody Grove. Anchor of resonance. Area of effect memory stabilizer. Enhances emotional magic. Acts as passive training node. By midday, half the city had gathered in the courtyard below the Hall of Song. Cairo stood on the dais, flanked by Tesha, Rain, and Leary. General Rinshout stood further back, his face unreadable. Cairo held the fragment in the air. "This is not a weapon. It is not a miracle. It is a promise. That as long as we remember one another, what we've fought for, what we've lost, we are stronger than silence." He pressed it into the earth. The pulse spread instantly. Light exploded upward in spirals of harmonic energy. A spectral tree burst from the courtyard, its branches winding toward the sky, each leaf a glimmering echo. Music filled the air. Not a song, but potential. Hundreds of overlapping harmonics waiting to be named. Children pointed. Adults wept. The wounded stood straighter. System update. Melody Grove established. Training effectiveness, plus 35%. Suppression resistance, plus 40%. City morale, high. Rain looked at Cairo with something like awe. "You're building a legacy. One chord at a time." Cairo shook his head. "I'm just making sure we don't forget." Training resumed at full force. Solen led advanced classes in harmonic disruption tactics. Tesha mentored cadets in defensive synergy drills. Rain practiced spatial bending blade styles. And Cairo, he trained until he collapsed. Every morning began with resonance control meditations, followed by dual-channel spellcraft, then memory anchor visualization. By sunset, he worked under a resonance dome to simulate chaotic battlefield pulses. New skill unlocked. Pulse chain. Combines damage and crowd control into a wave burst. Gains power the more emotionally anchored the user is. One evening, after a particularly brutal session, Leary found Cairo sitting beneath the melody tree. "You're pushing too hard. Not hard enough." She handed him a canteen. He drank deeply. "You're not just fighting the chorus anymore, Cairo," she said. "You're fighting time. Fate. Memory itself. You think training faster will outrun that." He looked up. "Isn't it worth trying?" She sat beside him, humming softly. The melody soothed the air. "Then let me help." They trained together that night. And the next. And the next. Each time they sparred, something clicked deeper. Their magic began to harmonize naturally. Shields formed in rhythm. Spells aligned mid-cast. Bond strengthened. Cairo and Leary. Passive. Echo harmony. Grants minor MP Regan and casting speed when within 10 meters. In the wastes beyond Highwall, in a cavern deep beneath forgotten stone, the silenced chorus gathered. But not all were singing. One stood apart. A girl. She hummed a tune under her breath, a melody never taught, never shared. And her eyes glowed gold. Morning light filtered through the shimmering canopy of the newly awakened Melody Grove. Where once stood cracked stone and scorched earth, now grew a sanctuary of song and memory. Echoes lingered in the air, remnants of laughter, grief, and courage. Even when no one spoke, the grove hummed. Cairo rose early, his body still sore from the previous night's joint session with Leary. The magic they'd woven together continued to resonate in his chest, a slow, steady pulse like a second heartbeat. He made his way to the training fields, where a new group of recruits were arriving from the northern outposts. Among them were two who immediately caught his attention. One, a lean boy with sun-dark skin and wild silver hair, introduced himself with a grin. "Name's Fun. Ex-runner squad. I got tagged by a memory beast. Forgot my own name for 2 days. Guess it stuck when it came back." The other was quieter. A girl named Myra, barely 15, who said nothing but stood with perfect posture and carried a staff twice her height. Her eyes never wavered. They're survivors, Tesha said, walking up beside him. But they need anchors. All of them do. And not just spell drills. They need to remember who they are before the next pulse tries to take it. Cairo nodded. Then we give them memory work with every physical drill. That day, training changed. Every weapon kata included a chant. Every spell began with a personal mantra. Every fall, every failure, was followed by one shared phrase. I'm not forgotten. New system feature. Memory-linked training protocol. All skills gain passive emotional resilience. Enhanced resistance to oblivion-based corruption. Bonus XP when training with bonded party members. Cairo pushed himself harder than ever. He ran memory loops while balancing mana control. He recited his mother's lullaby mid-sparring. He fought through exhaustion until the melody tree's leaves trembled with his heartbeat. New ability gained. Resonant Guard. Forms a passive mana barrier when under high emotional strain. Scales with current mental focus and bond proximity. Rain returned that evening from a recon mission along the ley line fractures. Something's shifting, he said. The pulse patterns are getting recursive. Like echoes of something we haven't faced yet. Or something we already did, Leary murmured. Solin joined them at the central hearth. Her voice was low. We're detecting feedback from older spell fields. Magic that hasn't existed in centuries is returning in corrupted form. The Soul Forge might have done more than stabilize memory. It may have rebooted ancient threads. Cairo felt the chill ripple through the circle. Quest update. Harmonic recursion detected. Investigate ancient spell threads reactivating across Dareth Ka. Optional objective. Reclaim forgotten techniques before the chorus does. That night, Cairo dreamed of song. Not one he'd heard, not one he'd sung, but he knew it was his. And when he woke, the words were still with him. In broken halls where silence grew, let old songs rise in voices new. No name erased, no echo gone. We sing until the end is drawn. He wrote it down. And knew. It wasn't just a verse. It was a beginning. The melody grove shimmered under the first light of dawn, its leaves gently rustling with harmonic pulses too soft for the untrained to hear. Cairo stood beneath the tree, eyes closed, tuning his breath to its rhythm. Every pulse was a heartbeat, every echo a memory. The training helped, but the exhaustion was beginning to layer deeper than his bones. Your mana flow is erratic, came a voice to his left. Cairo opened his eyes. Master Solène approached, her long coat trailing behind her like a cloak of woven starlight. She carried no weapon today, but her presence alone steadied the space around her. I've been pushing through the fatigue, Cairo admitted. You've been trying to drown it. There's a difference. She gestured toward the training ring. Join me. We'll recalibrate your resonance the old way. They sparred in silence for 20 minutes. Solène moved with fluid precision, casting subtle spells between each strike to test his rhythm. Cairo countered with quick bursts of pulse chain, chaining 2 attacks into a rebounding wall of pressure. Sweat poured from his brow. Then, Solène stopped. You're missing your center. You train like a man afraid of forgetting who he is. Cairo dropped to one knee. That's exactly it. I feel it slipping sometimes. The dreams, the thoughts that aren't mine. The future I saw when the chorus twisted everything. Solène knelt and placed a palm on his forehead. Her eyes glowed faintly. You need grounding, not just through memory, but through people, through legacy. Follow me. Training Annex. Archives Chamber. The annex hadn't been touched since the early years of Highwall's fall. Inside were records, scrolls, voice crystals, and broken echoes stored in suspended harmonic cages. What's this place? Cairo asked. These are the echo threads, Solène said. Resonance memories from the last generation of frontline bards. Not all of them survived, but their voices did. She led him to a sealed alcove. Inside floated a glowing fragment of music, pulsing with a gentle blue aura. This one belonged to Arendelle. She was like you. Young, gifted, overworked. She gave everything in the first chorus siege. Cairo approached the fragment. System notification. Echo thread found. Arendelle. Verse of the Dying Flame. Passive, unlockable memory skill. Requires synchronization ritual. Risk. Minor memory distortion for 12 hours. He nodded. I'll do it. Solène held his hands as the ritual began. The world blurred. He saw a battlefield, fires burning under moonlight. A woman, Erin, stood atop a ruined bell tower, her voice splitting the sky as chorus agents closed in. Her last spell, the dying flame verse, was cast not with power, but with truth. She gave her name. She gave her story. And the enemy faltered. Then the memory cut. Cairo gasped, falling to his knees. A flame danced across his vision. New ability acquired. Dayland's Echo. You may cast a memory-laced verse once per battle that inflicts psychological pressure on enemies. Bonus. You can now harmonize briefly with legacy echoes stored in training archives. Leary trained with Myra and Fawn, the two newest recruits. Myra struggled with focus. Her sword techniques were excellent, but her harmonic control flickered wildly. You're holding back, Leary said. Myra hesitated. If I cast too strong, I lose control. It's why I failed out of the academy in Solmaris. Leary nodded. Then we build from control first, not power. Trust your rhythm, not your limit. Finn stood nearby, silent, practicing with his twin harmonic pistols, each one tuned to different emotional spectrums. Unlike Myra, Finn barely spoke, but every shot hit true. You don't talk much, Leary noted. Words are precious, Finn said. Better used in song. She smiled. I like you already. Around the grove's central fire, Cairo shared the story of Aaron Dayland's memory. Myra and Finn listened closely, their faces glowing with reflected flame. We fight monsters, Cairo said. But the real battle is holding on to who we are when everything tries to erase it. Finn stirred the fire. Then we sing names like swords. Myra raised her canteen. And remember, even when we're gone. The wind shifted. Far beyond the valley, thunder rumbled. Cairo looked to the stars. Another trial's coming. Let's be ready. The storm rolled in before sunrise. Not rain. Not wind. Resonance. Waves of harmonic pressure pulsed through Highwall's outer barrier like drum beats, echoing from the horizon. The scouts confirmed it. An anomaly in the southeast region of the wastes. A pulse gate. Unstable. Glowing with untuned energy. Wild harmonics bled through the air like veins of light. By noon, the melody grove began to sway in response. Cairo stood at its center, arms crossed, mind already racing. It's a trial gate, Solen said, stepping beside him. They appear when the world senses a shift. The soul forge, the note you anchored, the unfinished song, it's all pushing the balance. This gate is a response. A test, Cairo murmured. Solen nodded. Enter it, and it will reflect what you fear, what you haven't faced. You go alone. Leary stepped forward. Then I'll wait at the edge. Myra and Finn joined her, weapons readied, silent but steady. Cairo exhaled. Then let's go. The waste shimmered red as they approached. A massive tear in space hovered above scorched stone. It pulsed like a heartbeat, and when Cairo stepped through, the world inverted. No sky, no stars, just echoes. He landed in a replica of Noryan, his childhood street, silent, dim, lined with flickering lanterns. He recognized the cracked steps, the old bakery, the gutter where he used to hide when the gangs roamed. Then the ground trembled. A figure stood at the far end of the street. Himself, but older, tired, cracked from within, like glass under pressure. The reflection stepped forward. You think you've earned this power? That just because you remember, you deserve to lead? Cairo raised his fists, instinct flaring. But the mirror Cairo didn't attack. He sang, a twisted version of Ballad of the Unbroken, laced with guilt, doubt, and failure. Cairo staggered. Every note struck like a blow to the chest. Memories warped, friends lost, battles failed, cities fallen. He fell to one knee. But then, from the distance, a whisper. Leary's voice. Myra's steady humming. Finn's quiet tune. They couldn't enter, but their echoes could. He sang back, verse by verse, not a perfection, but perseverance. I fall, but not alone I stand. Through broken breath, I raise my hand. The path I take, not forged by pride, but by the ones who walk beside. His voice shattered the illusion. The twisted mirror cracked, then exploded into harmonic dust. Trial passed. Flame echoed depths, new ability gained. Core resonation. Once per battle, become immune to all mental distortion for 10 seconds. Allies nearby gain increased spell accuracy. Back at the edge of the gate, Cairo emerged, sweat-soaked and pale. Leary caught him. You did it. No, he said. We did. Solen waited nearby. This was the first. There will be more. The deeper the song runs, the more the world will test your melody. Cairo looked up at the sky, watching the last of the red light fade. Let it test everything. I'm not here to echo someone else's path. I'm writing my own. They rested, but not in idleness. Cairo and his team returned to the grove for reflection, meals, and light recovery drills. The training grounds shifted into a slower rhythm. Combat dummies enchanted to respond to harmonics. Sparring drills focused on timing over strength, and memory stabilization rituals shared in the central clearing. Cairo stood beside Fun, watching the younger fighter alternate his twin pistols in a beat-sync formation. Each shot vibrated with subtle color changes, blue for calm, red for adrenaline. You're syncing to emotion more precisely now, Cairo said. Fun gave a small nod. I'm learning to hear without listening. Nearby, Myra practiced shielded verses with Leary, each barrier forming not from direct power, but harmonized resonance. Don't force your spell, Leary guided. Invite it. Let the tone rise naturally. Cairo smiled faintly as he watched. Later, Solen called for a group meditation under the grove's ancient canopy. The team sat in a circle, their palms resting on runestones, voices aligned in a steady hum. Cairo's mind drifted, not into dreams, but memories, each trial, every echo, and the weight of what still lay ahead. Solen's voice gently broke the silence. Remember this. Strength is forged not from silence, but from songs you dare to share. As stars emerged overhead and the grove shimmered softly, Cairo finally felt something rare, clarity. Tomorrow would bring another challenge. But tonight, they sang. The wind over the ruins of Alarith carried a strange dissonance, neither melody nor silence, but something stretched between. A half-song, fractured and waiting. The trial gate pulsed beneath the rubble, hidden beneath the collapsed streets of a city swallowed by time. Its shape was unlike the others, spiraling inward like a coiled shell of sound. Etched runes glimmered on jagged stone fragments. Cairo stood at the edge of the sinkhole, Lyra beside him, her eyes narrowed. It's humming in your voice, she said, but warped. Cairo didn't respond at first. He felt it too. The rhythm matched his pulse, his breath, even his memories. But it wasn't his magic. It was twisted. It's not calling me, he finally said. It's copying me. Corinne, still pale but stronger by the day, crouched near the edge and tossed a pebble into the pit. No echo. No sound at all. That's not natural, Corinne muttered. It's not just muting resonance. It's absorbing it. Kale clicked a new cartridge into his shadow weave pistol and stepped forward. So we break it before it learns how to sing. No, Solen said quietly from behind. You don't break this. You face it. She pointed to the ruins. It's a recursive field. The gate will feed off your memories and project them back. But only one of you can enter. Cairo didn't hesitate. Then I go. The moment he crossed the threshold, the world inverted. He fell, not down but inward, and landed in light. Not the warmth of day. The sterile, blue-white glare of a hospital hallway. Familiar. Too familiar. Cairo blinked and stared down the corridor lined with glass panels. A younger version of himself sat outside a door at the far end, small, knees pulled to his chest, eyes empty. No, Cairo whispered. He hadn't seen this place in years. The orphanage hospital wing. The day they told him no one was coming for him. A voice echoed around the sterile walls. His voice, but age distant. If you let the world choose for you, it always will. If you want to matter, earn it. The younger Cairo looked up, but his eyes weren't hollow anymore. They were burning. And when he stood, a ripple of magical energy pulsed from him. Cairo flinched. This was a memory. It was challenge. The younger self attacked, not with spells, but raw intent. Each swing of energy carried a feeling, abandonment, betrayal, rage. Cairo dodged, ducked behind a conjure barrier, tried to speak. I'm not that boy anymore. But the younger version didn't answer. He screamed, not with voice, with everything Cairo had once buried. The trial wasn't about strength. It was about reconciliation. Cairo dropped his defenses, not to die, but to listen. As the younger self lunged again, Cairo stepped forward, arms wide, and embraced him. The moment they collided, light flared, and sound returned. The hallway shattered into dust. And when the world reformed, it was the grove, not the current one, but the future, a field of silver grass under twin moons, statues of those he hadn't yet met, harmonic crystal spires ringing like chimes, and at the center, a stone bearing his name, Cairo Vale, Echo Warden. He fell to his knees, not from pain, from awe. The voice returned, calm, clear. This is one of many paths, but only if you remember why you started. New skill. Echo Wardens will, once per week, resist a complete magical override or mind control effect. Bonus. All ally spells within 20 meters receive plus 5% stability in contested zones. New trait gained. Soul Thread Memory. You can now anchor specific memories into objects or locations for future magical use. He awoke outside the gate, gasping. Kale caught him before he hit the ground. You were out for 6 hours, Kale said. What happened? Cairo looked at him, eyes distant. I met someone I needed to forgive. Lyra helped him stand. We need to move. The next distortion is already forming, west of the Hollow Range. Corinne gritted his teeth. That's close to a beast well. Too close. So Len approached with a map, unfurling it on the rocks. And the chorus isn't sitting idle. They've started gathering near the old spires. If they reach the final echo node first. They won't, Cairo said. But his voice wasn't defiant. It was calm, grounded, resolved. They moved quickly, but not recklessly. Between travel, they trained. Kale taught new forms, disarm drills, low-light maneuvering. Corinne began experimenting with thread flares, unstable echo bursts drawn from his recovered resonance. Leary and Cairo practiced duet aria harmonics, pushing further into combined spellcasting, developing the first prototype of an echo matrix, a shared magical field between bonded casters. Even Myra rejoined them from the guild temporarily, bringing updated sigils and message spells from the capital. You're starting to sound like the future, she said after watching them train. Then we'd better live long enough to meet it, Cairo replied. System update, Cairo Vale. Level, 16. Class, Echo Weaver, SSS. New skill, Echo Warden's Will. New trait, Soul Thread Memory. Current XP, 4,500/6,200. Bond progress. Leary high. Kale, moderate. Corinne high. Myra, moderate. Solan, unknown. As night fell and the range loomed ahead, they lit no fires. Too close to the next trial. But Cairo whispered quietly, so only the night wind could hear. I don't know what kind of legend I'm becoming, but I swear, it will be one worth remembering. The hollow range loomed like the ribs of a sleeping titan. Jagged peaks slashed across a barren landscape, their shadows carving wounds into the stone. Wind screamed between cliffs, and the air carried a strange taste, metallic, sharp, alive. Cairo adjusted the straps on his pack and stared up the cracked trail ahead. The rocks gleamed faintly under moonlight, streaked with veins of amber. Leary ran her fingers along one of the glowing lines. Mana fractures. Old ones. Something big was sealed here, and it's trying to wake up. Or break out, Kale muttered, checking the edge of his blade. They had left their camp behind 2 hours earlier, traveling light and silent. The grove had marked this place as a rising threat. Reports of vanishing scouts, shattered communication runes, and harmonic feedback spikes beyond stable resonance levels. Solen's final warning echoed in Cairo's mind. What waits in the hollow range won't just test your magic. It will test your foundation. Refractor beasts aren't just stronger. They are unstable. The trail narrowed into a cavern mouth, rimmed with glowing moss and frost-rimed stones. Cairo stopped. The distortion's strongest here, he said. We go in slow. No resonance casting unless it's absolutely necessary. Corin nodded, his voice quiet. Too much magic, and the entire cave might react. Underscore. Underscore. Within the hollow, the world narrowed. The moment they crossed into the cavern, warmth bled away. Their breath frosted. The walls pulse like veins, dim but alive. Myra tapped a chalk rune onto the stone behind them, marking our entrance. In case things get strange, Kale scouted ahead, while Leary and Cairo walked in step, careful not to speak above a whisper. Then came the hum, subtle, a heartbeat, echoing from deep inside the mountain. And with it, footsteps. At first they thought it was rockfall, until the echoes began responding to their presence. Not mimicking, mocking. A low, gurgling snarl echoed across the chamber. And then, a blur of glass and smoke dropped from the ceiling. It slammed into the ground, scattering shards of crystal with the impact. The refractor beast stood nearly 8 feet tall, its form constantly shifting. Scales rippled with iridescent mana reflections. Its eyes were mirror lenses, absorbing every flicker of light. Cairo's breath caught. It was not just a monster. It was a resonance-consuming echo construct, born from failed magic and ancient grief. The hollow had made this. It roared, and the sound split into 3 discordant chords, disrupting nearby magic. Corinne cried out and staggered. Kale dove to intercept the creature's first swipe, blades hissing with deflection runes. Moo! Cairo launched into motion, singing a stabilizing line from the Ballad of the Unbroken, but the notes trembled in the air, distorted. Leary joined him, tried to layer harmony over his voice, but the refractor screeched again, breaking their coordination. "It's refracting spell work," she shouted. "Our resonance is being split." Myra scrambled for cover, deploying 4 sigil grenades, each one detonating with a boom of compressed sound. The creature reeled, but only for a moment. Its body reformed around the damage. "Don't fight it head-on." Kale growled, dragging Corinne out of the range of its next swipe. "Cairo, sing with the distortion, not against it." Cairo closed his eyes. He tuned in, not to the song he knew, but to the broken one beneath it. The hollow's hum, the beast's rhythm, the sadness in the mountain. Then he sang, not a spell, a lament. "The mountain weeps in forgotten light, bound in grief, too tired to fight. What you were was never wrong, just trapped inside a twisted song." The refractor stilled. Its body shimmered, unstable. A note floated from Cairo's voice, silver and slow. And the beast listened, then shattered, not with violence, but with release. Crystals melted into mist, and from the center, a single echo rose, an orb of warm harmonic light. Cairo stepped forward, reaching. The orb pulsed once, and entered his palm. New passive, resonance channel. When confronted with unstable echo constructs, you may now calm or redirect their harmonic core. Passive bonus, plus 10% clarity in mana-distorted zones. Item acquired. Echo Core, Hollow Heart. Can be used to stabilize one corrupted resonance field or power a high-tier spell. Single use. Corinne leaned against the wall, breathing hard. That was terrifying. Leary helped Myra to her feet. That wasn't just a monster. It was grief, made real. Kale dusted himself off and gave Cairo a look. "You didn't fight it. You forgave it." Cairo met his gaze. "Because I felt it. It didn't want to live like that." Kale turned away, muttering, "You're going to get yourself killed doing that." Cairo smiled faintly. "Maybe, but not today." The stars glittered overhead as they made camp just beyond the mountain pass. The fire crackled gently, casting long shadows over stone and moss. Cairo sat apart for a while, turning the echo core over in his hands. Its light pulsed in time with his heartbeat. Leary joined him, silent at first. Then, "Do you think they were human, once?" Cairo looked up. "The beasts." She nodded. He considered. Maybe not flesh and blood, but something close. Resonance carries memory. If enough of it is trapped, then we're not just fighting monsters, she said. We're fighting what's left of the world. Cairo looked toward the stars and thought of the next trial gate, the final note of the unfinished song, and the weight of what came next. System update, Cairo Veil. Level, 17. New passive, Resonance Channel. Item, Echo Core, Hollow Heart 1. Status, stable. Training path, Echo Matrix in development. Bond status, Kale, strengthened. Leary, deepening. Corinne, resilient. Myra, reconnected. As the fire died down and sleep came slowly, Cairo whispered one more thing to the night. I won't let their voices be the last, even if I have to carry them in my song forever. The gates of High Wall creaked open as Cairo and his team approached, the night wind curling around their cloaks. Guards stood alert, eyes wide, not in challenge but recognition. Word of the Hollow Range had spread. You're the ones who calmed the refractor, a young soldier whispered as they passed. Cairo didn't reply. He was too busy listening, not with his ears, but through the new resonance buried in his palm. The echo core pulsed like a heartbeat against his skin, its light faint but warm. Even with the city's protective runes around him, he felt the hollow's sadness in every corner, muted but not gone. As they crossed into the guild's central plaza, Solène was waiting. You came back changed, she said. Cairo met her gaze. It wasn't just a fight. It was a warning. Then you need to see something, she said. Now. Few ever descended this deep. The upper levels of the Bardic archives were filled with scrolls, relics, and harmonized instruments. But below them, buried in reinforced stone and sealed vaults, were the forbidden halls, places where songs too dangerous or unfinished were locked away. After the festival breach, Solène explained, leading the group through dark corridors, we found something behind the sealed corral wing. Something old, something resonating. She stopped at a narrow stone arch. Beyond it, a room pulsed with gold and red light. Floating crystal threads drifted through the air like strands of sound trapped mid-performance. And at the center, an unbound scroll. It hovered above a cracked pedestal, rotating slowly, fragments of melody drifting around it. Cairo stepped forward. The core in his hand grew warmer. Solène nodded. It responded to your hollow resonance. We think it's the origin of verse 6. Leary whispered, the song that shouldn't be. Myra drew a slow breath. It's completing itself. Cairo reached out, and the scroll snapped downward, locking into his grasp. A new verse burned itself into his mind. Verse 6, echo form revelation. In roots undone and stars erased, where silence crawls and lights replaced, I stand for names no longer known, and build my truth from dust and bone. System alert, partial completion, harmony index rising, silenced chorus convergence predicted. Last verse location, unknown. A tremor shook the chamber. Solène swore. They're close. Chorus scouts breached the city perimeter yesterday. Kale turned, voice low. They're not waiting anymore. They want to finish the song before we do, Cairo said, tightening his fist. They want to twist it. Leary narrowed her eyes. Then we stop running. We find the last verse. We end this. They train harder than ever. Kale drilled Cairo through blindfolded duels, focusing on instinct over sight. Don't see the strike. Feel the rhythm. Myra summoned layered shields against aggressive projection runes, testing Cairo's ability to break suppression fields without overchanneling. Leary focused on mental resistance, chanting inverted melodies near him to simulate chorus interference. The choir master will try to rewrite you. You need an anchor. Corinne sat beside Cairo during breaks, silent as always, but steady. And each night, Cairo returned to the archive. Each night, the final verse still refused to reveal itself. A piercing resonance alarm shattered the calm. Guild bells screamed in disharmony. Skies darkened, not with clouds but sound. Dozens of chorus agents appeared at the city walls, masked, robed, and singing. Their melody was hollow, weaponized. The Queen's Guard scrambled to intercept. Mages filled the air with color and magic. But the real threat was already inside. Cairo, Solène shouted. They're in the archive. Cairo and the others raced through crumbling halls. Runes burst. Walls cracked. Chorus infiltrators scattered like shadows, unleashing suppression bursts that drained memory and magic alike. At the archive's core, they found her. Seraphine Ellenhart. Alive. Calm. Standing beside the unbound scroll. Her voice was soft. You've almost written it, Cairo. But it doesn't belong to you. It never did. He stepped forward, his magic flaring. I don't care who it belonged to. I care what it becomes. Seraphine raised her hand, and dozens of chorus echoes emerged behind her, singing their corrupted melody. Kale and Myra rushed to hold the line. Leary and Corinne stood with Cairo, voices ready. You won't stop the verse, Cairo said. I'm not trying to stop it. Seraphine whispered. I'm trying to finish it. The unbound scroll pulsed, and for a moment, all light vanished. Cairo stood in a void of silence, alone, except for one sound, his own heartbeat, and then a voice, not his, not Seraphine's, but something ancient, a presence of pure resonance. You have written the shape, but not the soul, it said. You may choose the final verse, but you may only write it if you understand what it means to end a song. Legacy. The song becomes an eternal memory. The user fades, but their voice echoes forever. Rebellion. The song burns through suppression. Powers rise, but consequences ripple. Rebirth. The song sacrifices itself to awaken a new harmony, unknown, but alive. The world was silent, not with stillness, but anticipation. Within the heart of the collapsing bardic archives, the resonance swelled. Dust and melody swirled like fireflies, caught between competing songs, one born of grief and rebellion, the other forged in cold design. Kairo Kazuki stood at the epicenter, his fingers curled around the scroll, the song that shouldn't be, its final verse yet unwritten. The parchment pulsed with power, waiting, demanding, testing. Seraphine Ellenhart, robed in white and veiled in silver static, watched him from across the cracked stone floor. Behind her, chorus echoes hovered, masked, weightless, their silence sharp enough to cut. I gave you the chance to sing with purpose, Seraphine said. Now you will fall silent, like the rest. Cairo didn't flinch. No, you never wanted purpose. You wanted control. He stepped forward, voice steady. This song was never about you. Or me. It was about remembering what we are when the world tries to rewrite us. From the stairwell, Kale burst into view, bloodied blade in hand. We've got the outside locked down, he panted. But you've got minutes, maybe less. Myra followed, aura flickering around her in protective flares. Seraphine's backup is coming fast. You need to finish the verse. Seraphine raised her hand, and the archive trembled, then died with it unfinished. Dozens of chorus operatives unleashed their inverted aria, a song of unmaking. Words designed to silence names, break bonds, erase thought. It surged across the vault like a tsunami of silence. Cairo stood tall. I've made my choice. The song that shouldn't be, final verse. I sang for silence, bled for light, but knew that neither made things right. So let me fall, and let me fade. If new songs bloom from what I gave. Effect. The choir eternal awakens. The melody reshapes magic within a 100-mile radius. All suppressed memories are released. All emotion-sealed spells are broken. The harmonic core of Elydria is reset. Cairo sang the verse. Not for power, not for glory, but for the child who still lived in the slums of Noryan. For the broken student who carried a lute and no future. For the friend he lost. The allies he found. The world that forgot how to listen. And the archive answered. The walls shattered, not from collapse, but transformation. Golden light erupted from every stone. Melody threads weaved into the sky. Magic, old, forbidden, pure, awoke. The silenced chorus screamed, their song unraveling mid-chant. Seraphine staggered, her mask cracking. No, you don't understand. If you change the foundation, you rewrite the future, Cairo whispered. Behind him, Lyra raised her staff. Myra summoned a barrier woven with a new song. Kale stood at Cairo's back, swords raised. And Corinne, steady, alive, whole, walked forward. He took Seraphine's arm, gaze steady. You remember me now, don't you? Seraphine faltered. I never forgot you, she whispered. But it was too late. The song was done. System notification. Choir eternal, activated. All emotion-based suppression magic neutralized in affected radius. Memory locks dissolved. Awakening potential re-evaluated across population. New spell class unlocked. Living songs. Cairo Kazuki marked as first songkeeper of the reborn era. Where once stood a crumbling gate, now arose a new amphitheater. Children practiced songs they didn't understand. Merchants hummed as they traded. Even those who once feared resonance found themselves tapping their feet again. The world hadn't been fixed, but it had been reminded. Cairo stood at the edge of a stone balcony, watching the city breathe. Kale leaned beside him, polishing a blade. So, you rewrote reality. Not reality, Cairo replied. Just the part they tried to silence. Lyra joined them, holding a scroll of new harmonics. We've got envoys from the Queen, from Ehrenfell, even from across the sea. They want to talk about what happens next. Cairo smiled faintly. Next, he looked at the sky. We build, train, grow. We protect the stories that survived, and we write new ones. Myra and Corinne approached, followed by a group of new students, some orphans, some former street performers, some soldiers who had forgotten how to dream. Master Kazuki, one asked wide-eyed, can you really hear the stars? Cairo chuckled. Sometimes. But more often, I just listen to what people forget to say. He unslung his instrument and began to play. Status panel, updated. Name, Cairo Kazuki. Level, 12. Class, Echo Weaver, evolved, Songkeeper. Subclass, Voice of Renewal. Traits, Choir Heart, Soul Resonance. Fate, Echo. Echo Anchor, Songkeeper's Burden. Living Song New. Signature Spell, The Choir Eternal. Mana, 670/670. Stamina, 340/400. Emotion Index, Maximum Stability.